Chapter 45. By now, many people had already forgotten that Kai Er had given way to Yang Wenjiao. Both Long Haochen and Yang Wenjiao had displayed abilities that surpassed most of the contestants present. Moreover, they had not been able to summon their mounts since the start of the battle. Golden, white, and blue halos continued to explode in the air. Finally, two figures fell from the sky and landed on the ground. There were at least 6 dents on Long Haochen's Holy Spirit armor. They were clearly caused by the Star Sea Spiritual Stove's attack, but it did not break through his defense. On the other side, Yang Wenjiao appeared to be in an even more sorry state. He wore a set of golden armor today, and there were at least a dozen sword marks on the armor. His left shoulder, in particular, had clearly been slashed open, and blood was gushing out of it. Long Haochen spat out a mouthful of blood with a cry. His injuries were no less severe than Yang Wenjiao's. The power of the Star Sea Spiritual Stove had helped Yang Wenjiao turn the tables. However, as he spat out blood, he launched another attack on Yang Wenjiao. "This fella is simply a lunatic. Doesn't he need to catch his breath?" Yang Wenjiao could not help but feel helpless when he saw Long Haochen charging at him again. Long Haochen's eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight, but there was a clear sense of calmness in the depths of his eyes. The two auras were perfectly combined. What kind of terrifying existence was this? In fact, Yang Wenjiao did not know that Long Haochen's constitution as the Holy Sun had gradually integrated into his battle due to the stimulation of the outside world. The constitution of the Holy Sun gave him the ability of the luminous heart. Under the effect of the luminous heart, his judgment would not be affected by his emotions in any situation. As the knight's most powerful innate talent, the Holy Sun was being developed bit by Long Haochen. Yang Wenjiao gritted his teeth and did not choose to fight Long Haochen head-on. This fellow was crazy. If he continued to fight, it would likely end in a lose-lose situation. Moreover, he might even end up as the loser if he lost in terms of aura. Therefore, Yang Wenjiao tried to calm himself down and chose to retreat strategically. At the same time, he wielded his sword and quickly drew a summoning formation. As long as he could summon the Starlight Unicorn, he would have a higher chance of winning the battle. Yang Wenjiao naturally didn't retreat. If he did, he wouldn't be able to dodge Long Haochen's sudden attack. He also chose to attack, but in a different direction. He quickly rushed to the side and activated the summoning circle at the same time. He dashed to the side and activated the summoning formation at the same time. At the same time, blue starlight seemed to flow out from his chest and quickly spread to his entire body, fusing with his armor. It was the evolved ability of the Galaxy Spiritual Furnace, Star Spirit Armor. With this kind of defense, Yang Wenjiao was confident that he wouldn't receive too much damage from Long Haochen's ranged attacks. However, at this moment, there was a commotion in the resting area. Unfortunately, Yang Wenjiao could not hear the commotion. The light barrier around the training field not only blocked the various skills inside, but it also blocked all disturbances from the outside world. The contestants in the resting area only saw a purple light flash, and a gigantic creature appeared under Long Haochen. It had 3 big heads. It was Haoyue. He did not use any summoning incantations or runes to complete the summoning. How was that possible? The ones who felt the most incredulous were the summoners of the Soul Temple. However, no matter what they guessed, Long Haochen completed the summoning in an instant. The moment Haoyue appeared, 3 spells were cast almost at the same time. A ball of dense green light instantly fell on Long Haochen's body, causing his entire body to be covered with a layer of misty green luster. A ball of terrifying red light was spat out from Xiaohua's mouth. A golden light shone on the blue rain and hibiscus of light in Long Haochen's right hand. The 3 skills were cast at the same time in one go. Haoyue's position was slightly in front of Long Haochen, so when Long Haochen landed, he happened to land on its tail. Hence, when Xiaohua, and Xiaohua released their skills, Haoyue's 4-meter-long body twisted its waist and swung its tail, throwing Long Haochen out in an instant. It changed the direction of his attack and went straight for Yang Wenjiao. A huge fireball with a diameter of 1 meter flew in front of Long Haochen, completely blocking his body. This was the red light that Xiaohua had spat out. Super Bursting Fireball, a level 5 fire spell. It was a single-target spell, but once it exploded, it could even cause the power of an AoE spell. It was one of the few Tier 5 fire-type spells with the strongest attack power. Yang Wenjiao was in the middle of summoning when he suddenly felt a burning sensation behind him. Why was there a burning sensation? His summoning rune was about to be completed. If he was interrupted at this time, it was very likely that he would fall into an even more passive situation. Hence, Yang Wenjiao gritted his teeth. The armor on his body shone brightly, and a layer of golden-red flames instantly erupted. It was actually the sun's fire. However, this was not the sun's fire that he released himself, but the armor that released it, and it could only last for 3 seconds. His armor was actually also a piece of spirit-grade equipment. Boom! The super bursting fireball ruthlessly bombarded Yang Wenjiao. This was a level 5 spell. How could it be blocked by the skill attached to a piece of equipment? The sun's fire was instantly shattered, and the powerful explosive force further affected the surface of the star spirit armor, causing a large crack to explode. However, at this moment, Yang Wenjiao's heart relaxed. In the end, he still managed to block this attack, and his rune was also completed in this instant. The rich golden hexagonal radiance was already shining in front of him. As long as he stepped onto the Starlight Unicorn, the match would start anew. However, it was also at this instant that an unprecedented sense of danger made Yang Wenjiao's hair stand on end. He had no time to make any judgments. He turned around with all his might and slashed both swords backward. Puff! 2 intersecting white lights formed a cross slash and brazenly bombarded Yang Wenjiao's swords. An ear-piercing sound of metal breaking rang out in the air. Yang Wenjiao's dual swords were actually broken just like that. The white light slashed fiercely onto his body, tearing apart the astral spirit armor and the armor on his body. The terrifying attack power directly sent Yang Wenjiao flying. As blood wildly sprayed out, Yang Wenjiao only had one thought at this moment. How is this possible? The white light flashed, and the suction force instantly pulled the heavily injured Yang Wenjiao backward. Nay! With a long neigh, the Starlight Unicorn finally made its appearance. Through the connection of the equality contract, it immediately sensed that Yang Wenjiao was in danger. It spread its wings and chased after Yang Wenjiao without hesitation. However, it was also at this moment that another white light shone. This time, it was acting on the Starlight Unicorn's body. It was originally chasing after Yang Wenjiao, but it had no choice but to suddenly turn around and go in Long Haochen's direction. Long Haochen forcefully blocked the Starlight Unicorn's attack by crossing his swords. Although he was knocked more than 10 meters away, the Starlight Unicorn was also forced to take a few steps back due to the recoil, preventing it from continuing its attack. "Stop! I don't want to hurt him!" Long Haochen shouted at the Starlight Unicorn. The Starlight Unicorn was very obedient. It immediately stopped its attack, and its beautiful big eyes were filled with anxiety. It was no wonder it did not dare to attack again. It was indeed afraid of hurting him. On the other side, Yang Wenjiao was currently in front of Haoyue. Little Green bit Yang Wenjiao's neck without any hesitation, and he did not dare to move at all. However, blood was still flowing out of his mouth and nose. It was clear that he had suffered a serious injury. The entire place was silent. At this point in the competition, the outcome was already decided. Before today's semifinals began, the other contestants also had their own thoughts on the final rankings of this year's competition. In their opinion, the most likely candidate to win the championship was Kai from the Assassin Temple. The strength Kai displayed was too overbearing. In front of her, there was simply no one who could last more than a quarter of an hour. Moreover, no one had ever forced her to use her true strength. The more mysterious she was, the more powerful she was. That was the view that everyone agreed with. After Kai Er, the most likely candidate to win the championship was Yang Wenjiao. He had the Starlight Unicorn and was a powerful rank 5 punishment knight. With his powerful cultivation base, equipment, and the support of the Starlight Unicorn, he should be able to put up a fight against Kai Er. It was hard to say who would emerge victorious in the end. As for Long Haochen, he was ranked 3rd. To many people, as a knight, Long Haochen was still too young. Although he should have a good talent. But compared to the Starlight Unicorn, his strange mount was still a distance away. His cultivation base should not be as good as Yang Wenjiao. If it was not for his relationship with Kai Er, he would not have received as much attention as the other two. As for Mu Ning, no one thought that he could enter the top 3. But after the start of the competition, everything that happened overturned everyone's opinion. Kai Er directly gave up the competition. She, who was the most favored by everyone, actually became the 4th place, while Mu Ning was lucky enough to pick up the 3rd place. But in the battle between Long Haochen and Yang Wenjiao, the majority still favored Yang Wenjiao. It was because the Starlight Unicorn was too dazzling. In the competition, Yang Wenjiao also proved his powerful strength. Not only did he have an Astral Sea spiritual stove that could attack and defend, but he had also completed the first evolution of the spiritual stove. However, although the future Monster Hunters members who participated in the competition guessed Yang Wenjiao's strength, they did not guess the final result. Even at this time, in their eyes, Long Haochen's overall strength should be inferior to Yang Wenjiao's. However, the final result was a complete victory belonging to Long Haochen. From the beginning to the end, he completely suppressed Yang Wenjiao, not giving Yang Wenjiao any chance to fight back. He succeeded in the battle and obtained the final victory. Back to a few breaths ago. Yang Wenjiao's plan in the battle could not be said to be wrong, but his biggest mistake was his judgment of Haoyue. The relationship between Long Haochen and Haoyue was a blood contract. This was a feeling of complete blood connection. Even if they were in different planes, they could still maintain contact. When they felt danger from each other, they could even teleport to each other's side at the first moment. Under such circumstances, Long Haochen did not need any summoning spells or runes at all. He could easily complete the summoning of Haoyue. Moreover, he could even use the telepathic link to inform Haoyue in advance to prepare a skill. This was also why Haoyue immediately released 3 spells as soon as he appeared. It was also these 3 skills that allowed Long Haochen to defeat Yang Wenjiao with 1 hit before the Starlight Unicorn appeared. The first spell was Xiaoqing's levitation spell, which instantly made Long Haochen lose a lot of weight. One must know that although Long Haochen was only 14 years old and did not weigh much, his armor and 2 heavy swords were not light at all. The weight reduction made Haoyue's tail the most advantageous propeller for him. His speed soared, and he caught up with Yang Wenjiao, who was in the midst of an assault. The second spell was Xiaohua's super explosive fireball. It was precisely this toy that blasted away more than half of Yang Wenjiao's defense, and even caused cracks to appear on the starlight armor. The third spell from Xiaohua was a buff light magic. It was somewhat similar to Brilliant World, but also somewhat different. It was a one-time injection of a highly concentrated light element to Long Haochen. Because of the blood contract between Long Haochen and Haoyue, they were connected by blood. This allowed him to directly mobilize this light element for his own use, and in the blink of an eye, transformed into 2 sacred swords. The 2 sacred swords suddenly erupted with a cross slash, becoming the ultimate attack to end Yang Wenjiao. This was still Long Haochen being lenient and not displaying the full power of the sacred swords. Otherwise, Yang Wenjiao's body would have already been split into 4 pieces. After thoroughly defeating Yang Wenjiao, the rest was simple. The Saint's spiritual stove's traction ability was activated once again, and the defenseless Yang Wenjiao was thrown to Haoyue. In a situation where Yang Wenjiao's life was in danger, no matter how powerful the Starlight Unicorn was, it would not be able to reverse the situation. Yang Wenjiao's judgment was correct. The Starlight Unicorn's strength was indeed greater than Haoyue's, and its buff in the light element was also something Haoyue could not compare to. However, he had miscalculated the compatibility between the partners. How could the blood contract between Long Haochen and Haoyue be compared to the equality contract between him and the Starlight Unicorn? If both sides were to enter a fighting stance and summon their respective magical beast companions to fight, the final result would be a lose-lose situation. As a Sky Knight, Yang Wenjiao's chances of victory were a bit higher. However, with Haoyue's assistance of 3 attributes, Long Haochen was not without a chance. Unfortunately, the outcome of a battle could not be measured by absolute strength. Many changes could occur during the course of a battle. Among them, the most likely to cause changes were tactics. Long Haochen wins, the referee announced. In the next moment, he was already in front of Yang Wenjiao. At Long Haochen's signal, Little Green opened its mouth and handed Yang Wenjiao to the referee. Rays of white holy light shone and landed on Yang Wenjiao's body, healing his rather serious injuries. Apart from the referee, the Starlight Unicorn also released some. At this moment, it had already quickly run to Yang Wenjiao's side, occasionally glancing at Haoyue not far away with obvious hostility. Long Haochen also released the holy light barrier from his spiritual light bracers. At the same time, the blue rain and hibiscus of light in his hands emitted a faint blue light. This was the water rain spell. Both light and water magic had healing effect. Light magic stimulated one's potential to heal oneself, while water magic soothed wounds and fused vitality. If the two were used together, they would complement each other and have an additional effect on healing. In this battle, it seemed that Long Haochen had completely suppressed Yang Wenjiao, but in reality, he was also under great pressure. From the beginning to the end, his attacks never stopped. Otherwise, with Yang Wenjiao's cultivation, how could he not summon the Starlight Unicorn in time? Under such a combination, he was under great pressure. At this time, an advantage that others could not see was revealed, and that was Long Haochen's external spiritual power. In terms of internal spiritual power, Long Haochen was a level 1 Earth Knight, and was definitely inferior to Yang Wenjiao, who was a level 3 Sky Knight. However, his external spiritual power was not something that Yang Wenjiao could compare with. Haoyue's 2 evolutions had caused Long Haochen's external spiritual power to increase along with the changes in his bloodline. Moreover, the mysterious heavy sword, blue rain and hibiscus of light, was constantly nourishing his body. Yang Wenjiao's external spiritual power was most likely only slightly more than 200, definitely not 300, while Long Haochen's external spiritual power was most likely more than 400. It was just that he did not know how much external spiritual power he had without going through specialized magic equipment to test it. The strength of external spiritual power made Long Haochen's endurance far exceed Yang Wenjiao's. Although he was injured after continuously forcefully using skills, it was still within the range of his endurance. Looking at the hazy light of blue rain and hibiscus of light in his hands, Long Haochen thought that if the holy sword cross-slash was still unable to defeat him, perhaps he would really have to use the strongest skill that came with this sword. However, if that happened, it would probably cause irreparable damage to him. A huge white pillar of light enveloped Yang Wenjiao's body, and the well-built referee used a skill to announce his strength. Holy Healing, the 8th grade skill of the Guardian Knight. The referee for the finals was impressively an 8th grade Holy Knight. Under the effects of the Holy Healing, the huge wound on Yang Wenjiao's back healed at an alarming rate, and he slowly stood up with the referee's help. Looking at Long Haochen, Yang Wenjiao's eyes revealed a complicated light. He did not expect that he would actually lose. He lost to this youth who was obviously much younger than him. The first time he met him, He was still a fourth-grade Great Knight. At that time, although his performance was stunning, he did not stand a chance in front of him. However, in less than a month, he defeated him head-on. A loss was a loss, and Yang Wenjiao would not find any excuses for himself. If he was facing demons, he would already be a corpse. Taking a deep breath, Yang Wenjiao nodded to the referee beside him, indicating that he could control his body. Only then did the Holy Knight let go of his hand. Step by step, Yang Wenjiao slowly walked towards Long Haochen. His face was very pale, but the complicated look in his eyes gradually disappeared. "He has something to say to me?" Long Haochen looked at the staggering Yang Wenjiao and walked up to him. "You won," Yang Wenjiao said weakly. "It was a trick." At this moment, the rising battle intent in Long Haochen's golden eyes had quietly disappeared. His handsome face still carried a bit of the childishness and purity of a young man. There was a slightly bashful but sunny smile on his face. Looking at his face, Yang Wenjiao was slightly dazed. It was this youth who defeated him. A win is a win. In the near future, when we compete for the Mithril Foundation, I will definitely not lose to you. Saying so, Yang Wenjiao extended his right hand to Long Haochen. Long Haochen extended his right hand and shook his hand. "You seem to have forgotten that the team competition is about to start." A bitter smile appeared on Yang Wenjiao's face, and he gently shook his head. "We will continue to move forward, for the glory of the night." Yang Wenjiao's hand was swordless, and his right fist lightly hit the left side of his chest. "For the glory of the night." Long Haochen returned the salute. In the direction of the VIP platform, the top management of the 6 temples filed down, walked into the trial field, and came to their side. Han Q's voice once again resounded in the arena. "The individual competition of this year's Monster Hunters preliminaries has ended. Champion, Long Haochen, runner-up, Yang Wenjiao, third place, Mu Ning. Next, we will hold the roulette team competition. All the top 60 contestants of this year's competition, please enter the arena." After almost a month, the individual competition of the Monster Hunters preliminaries had finally ended. The final result was beyond everyone's expectations. Knights Templars took the first 2 places, and became the biggest winner. Long Haochen, on the other hand, became famous after one battle. He won the final championship at the age of only 14, and became the youngest individual champion in the history of the Monster Hunters preliminaries. However, in his heart, this championship did not belong to him, but to the girl who silently supported him, but could not look at him. Under the guidance of the staff, all the contestants slowly entered the arena. On the other side, dozens of staff pushed a huge platform with a large number of rollers into the arena. The platform was circular, about 20 meters in diameter, and there was a huge roulette on it. The contestants stood in 2 rows under the guidance of the staff. Among them, the remaining contestants who made it to the top 16 stood in the first row, and the rest stood behind. Long Haochen and Yang Wenjiao stood side by side, staring at the huge roulette in front of them. Suddenly, Long Haochen seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed. He quickly turned around and looked for Kai in the crowd. Just as he was about to walk towards Kai and tell her something important, Han Q's voice was heard again. "Long Haochen, Yang Wenjiao, Mu Ning, get on the stage." At the same time, a soft light shield was released from the round platform, covering Long Haochen and the other 2, as well as the platform with the roulette. Han Q said in a deep voice, "As the top 3 of this competition, you will have the priority to form your own team. However, everything must be done according to the rules. From now on, you are not allowed to make any form of contact with others from the outside world until the team is formed." Long Haochen was anxious and he quickly said, "Holy Knight Elder, can I have a word with a friend of mine? Just a word." Spirit Emperor Sanshui from the Soul Temple's face sank and he said, "Didn't you hear what Holy Knight Elder said? This is the rule of the Sanctuary Alliance, how can it be changed because of you?" The leaders of the other temple were a little depressed that the Knights Templars had won the first 2 places. At this time, they were on the side of the rules, and naturally, they would not make an exception for Long Houchen. Long Houchen turned his head to look at Kai again. He wanted to tell her something with his eyes, but Kai could not see it. Even if his eyes could express many things, what was the use? Under the urging of the staff, Long Houchen had to go up the round platform with Yang Wenjiao and Mu Ning. Han Qiu looked at Long Houchen with some doubts, but at this time, as the host, he could not say much. According to the procedure, he said in a deep voice, the 3 of you have won the final top 3, so each of you has a chance to directly choose a future partner of yours in the Monster Hunters. As long as the partner agrees, he can directly become a member of the Monster Hunters. Long Houchen, you are first, so we will start with you. The light shield emitted from the center of the platform isolated the sound from the outside world, but the sound inside could be heard. But Long Houchen did not know this. Otherwise, even if he had to shout, he would definitely shout out the most important thing in his heart. Long Houchen looked at Han Qiu in a daze, and his face became even paler than before. He looked at Han Qiu, and then looked at Kai who was standing in the middle of the first row outside. His body even started to sway slightly. No matter if it was the 6 deputy temple masters, or Yang Wenjiao and Mu Ning who were standing beside him, they could not help but be confused. Why was he hesitating? Did he have any other choice other than that lady? But how was that possible? Anyone with a discerning eye would be able to tell. That lady had given up 2 matches consecutively because of him. Otherwise, the ranking would not have been like this today. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Long Houchen. But to him, everything happened too fast, so fast that he did not even have the time to tell his thoughts to Kai. Outside the light shield, Kai stood there quietly. She was also a little sluggish. Didn't I already give him a choice? Why didn't he say anything? What was he waiting for? Lin Xian stood behind Kai, and Lin Xian stood not far away. At this moment, all of them suddenly became nervous. Lin Xian knew Long Houchen too well. Although he was young, he had many qualities that adults could not have. Humility, honesty, compassion, bravery, fairness, sacrifice, honor, persistence, benevolence, justice. Almost all of the 10 rules of a knight could be seen in him. He would not really choose that guy who did not know magic, right? If that was really the case, what would happen to Kai? Little brother. Just be a bad guy for once. Looking at the frail figure in front of her, Lin Xian prayed in her heart, her palms unknowingly filled with sweat. At this moment, Lin Xian was also feeling very complicated. He had been watching the competition for the past few days. Back then, when he placed his bet on Long Houchen, he imagined that after 5 years, he would be able to realize his dream. However, he never expected that in this competition, Long Houchen would defeat all the heroes and become the final champion. He naturally knew that Kai had given up 2 matches, and he could also see the close relationship between them. At this time, would Long Houchen still choose him? If it were him, what would he choose? Lin Xian did not know. He could not give himself an answer. At this moment, his mind was a little blank. Looking at Long Houchen in the distant arena, his heart was momentarily filled with mixed feelings. On one side, it was his dearest girlfriend, who was second to none in the Assassin Temple, the number 1 of the younger generation. She was called the Assassin Queen by the other assassins who came to participate in the competition, Kai. On the other side, it was Lin Xian, who did not know any offensive magic and had barely made it through the preliminaries by relying on luck and schemes. On one side, it was the girl who he had promised to protect for his life, the girl who was willing to give up all her glory for him. On the other side, it was a promise driven by benefit. Lin Xian asked himself, how would he choose at this time? On the arena, Ying Suifeng was a little angry. He was very dissatisfied with Kai's choice today. Although this girl was not someone he could control, she represented the glory of the Assassin Temple. For a youth, she gave up her glory. If it was someone else, Feng would definitely punish them severely. However, Kair had sacrificed so much for him, yet he was actually hesitating at this moment. Was he still a responsible man? What are you waiting for? Hurry up and make your choice. Feng's anger contained a bit of coldness, and he could not help but shout in a low voice. Long Haochen's heart shook, and he woke up from his state of mind. He had to face reality. At this time, he could not afford to have any buffer. He clenched his fists, raised his head, and said in a deep voice with almost all the strength in his body, "I choose the Magic Temple's Lin Xian." What? Boom! There was a cry of surprise on the arena, and a huge uproar below the arena. There were 3 people who cried out at the same time. The Knights Templar's Holy Knight Captain Han Qiu, the Assassin Temple's Hidden Chivalry Hall Master Feng, and the Magic Temple's Mage Squad leader Lin Chen. The other 3 deputy temple masters were also surprised, but they were still able to control their emotions. What did you say? Feng took a step forward and grabbed Long Haochen's Holy Spirit armor. An extremely terrifying and powerful pressure almost wreaked havoc on Long Haochen. Han Qiu hurriedly took a step forward and grabbed Feng's shoulder. Don't be impulsive. Long Haochen, did you say something wrong? What's going on? The sacred magus Lin Chen looked on anxiously from the side. He had never thought that the future hope of the Knights Templars, the champion of this year's competition, would actually choose his own grandson. A trace of bitterness flashed in Long Haochen's eyes. I didn't say anything wrong. I chose the Magic Temple's Lin Xian. He is also in the top 60 of this year's competition. When Long Haochen said he chose Lin Xian for the first time, Kair, who was originally standing calmly below, suddenly froze. Her expression instantly became sluggish, and her grip on the green bamboo staff tightened. In that instant, she felt her mind go blank, as if she had suddenly lost all of her senses. Did I hear wrong? In that blank world, Kair tried to ask herself. However, how could I have misheard his voice? My hearing is at least twice that of a normal person. He chose Lin Xian? That Lin Xian who doesn't know any offensive magic. That Lin Xian who was in the same group as me in the group stage. Why, these 3 simple words flowed out of Kair's heart with great difficulty. What about his promise? He said he would protect me for the rest of his life. But he didn't choose me. Why, so cold, I suddenly feel so cold, so painful. Where did this cold and painful feeling come from? It seems to be my heart. My heart hurts because of him. In front of my eyes there was originally only black, but now it has turned gray. Why Kair? Listen to me, there's a reason why Long Haochen chose Lin Xian. Listen to me explain. Lin Xian called out to Kair anxiously. But, at this moment, Kair seemed to have lost her soul. She was still standing there silently, but it seemed like she had abandoned everything in the outside world. At this moment, Long Haochen's second sentence came from the light shield. I'm not wrong, I chose Lin Xian from the Magic Temple. He is also in the top 60 of this competition. Hearing his voice again, Kair seemed to have woken up. But, in the next moment, a shocking chill instantly exploded from her body. Lin Xian, who was the closest to her, felt that the extreme coldness seemed to be tearing her soul apart, and her body uncontrollably fell back. Not only her, the other contestants around Kair also quickly retreated in all directions. The green bamboo stick in Kair's hand sank into the ground, all the way to the end. Wah! She spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body slowly softened and fell. Kair! A slender figure suddenly appeared, as if he had cut open the space. Hugging her limp body, he reached out and hugged her. It was the skinny old man who was in front of the Sanctuary Alliance's treasure pavilion. B*****. I'll kill you. A terrifying black halo instantly soared into the sky, and the extremely powerful might cause the light in the entire training field to dim a little. The shocking murderous intent made the surrounding elites from the 6 great temples fall back with pale faces. The extremely sharp black saber gleam was about to land on the light shield released by the platform. At this moment, a golden light pillar suddenly fell from the sky. The golden light pillar was more than 30 meters in diameter, and when the black saber gleam cut into the golden light pillar, it turned into black light and disappeared without a sound. Yang Haohan, if you dare to stop me, I'll kill you first. The skinny old man's beard and hair stood up in anger, and the extremely sharp murderous intent condensed behind him. A huge saber that was 10 meters long and 3 meters wide was condensed behind him. The sharp saber gleam caused the golden light pillar that fell from the sky to ripple. At this moment, within the golden light pillar, a huge throne that was almost as tall as the dome appeared in the golden light pillar, and it was bloated. Countless gemstones were embedded on the high back of the throne, forming the shape of a dazzling shield. In the middle of the back of the throne, the thick and mellow aura made it emitted a mountain-like deterrence and protection power. The skinny old man's powerful murderous intent could not move an inch forward. Chapter 46. At the top of the throne's backrest was an oval, milky white gem. It exuded a peaceful and vast aura. It dispelled the fear and uneasiness in the hearts of the experts of the 6 great temple. It seemed that as long as it was present, no one would be harmed. The wide throne was covered in tortoiseshell patterns. 4 thick and solid chair legs extended downwards like elephant legs. 2 huge armrests were slightly tilted upwards, and auspicious clouds were engraved on them. Countless thick patterns extended from both sides of the backrest all the way down to every corner of the throne. The pure and peaceful aura made people feel like they were bathing in a spring breeze. A soft sigh sounded. An old and deep voice reverberated. "Brother Xing Yu, don't be impatient. Let's not talk about the rules. Haochen didn't do anything wrong. Even if he did, can you let him explain everything first?" Yang Haohan, who was wearing a white robe with fluttering sleeves, stood quietly in front of the huge throne. With the incomparable throne as the background, even the black-clothed skinny elder Xing Yu, whose beard and hair were fluttering, couldn't help but be stunned. The youngsters participating in the Monster Hunters trials might not recognize what it was, but how could he not recognize it? It was one of the 6 throne of God of the Knights Templars, the protection and mercy throne of God. Yang Haohan, who was wearing a white robe, was the Knights Templars Defense and Coordination Knight of the Seal, who was in charge of the Temple League headquarters. He was also the current leader of the Temple League. "Yang Haohan, are you going to stop me?" No matter how strong Xing Yu was, facing the protection and mercy throne of God, he had no choice but to restrain himself, because he knew that even though they were both at the 9th level, with his attack, it was impossible to break through Yang Haohan's defense. Yang Haohan said in a low voice, "Brother Xing Yu, I didn't expect that this little fellow would bring such trouble. However, as one of the deputy chiefs of the Temple League, and with so many young elites of the 6 great temple here, please restrain yourself for the glory of the League. It's better to let young people solve their own problems." As Yang Haohan spoke, a majestic aura spread out from his body. He waved his hand, and a golden halo enveloped him and the Assassin Temple's 9th Order hero, Xing Yu. Xing Yu appearing and targeting Long Haochen was clearly against the rules of the Temple League. He didn't want this situation to affect the young people's view of the alliance. Therefore, they isolated the sounds from the outside world. Xing Yu said angrily, "Don't talk to me about these principles. My great-granddaughter's mind is heavily injured. What do you say?" Yang Haohan said, "Xing Yu, calm down. A few days ago, your great-granddaughter heavily injured my grandson because of a personal grudge. Did I say anything to you?" Xing Yu was stunned, but he still argued, "My great-granddaughter is the reincarnation saintess. You should know how important she is to the alliance." Yang Haohan's face gradually became angry. "Xing Yu, if you continue to pester endlessly, I'll take you down first." The reincarnation saintess is indeed important, but Long Houchen has the Son of Light constitution. How important is an innate internal spiritual power of 97 to the Knights Templars? Xing Yu was stunned. What did you say? He has the Son of Light constitution? Yang Haohan snorted coldly. You have far less foresight than your great-granddaughter. Xing Yu came back to his senses and said angrily, What's the point of saying all this? How can that little bastard live up to everything my granddaughter has done for him? I don't care. If you don't give me an explanation today, the Assassin Temple will never let you Knights Templars off. A great-grandfather don't. Kai slowly woke up from her semi-conscious state. She had heard most of the conversation between the two experts. The blood-stained veil slightly lowered, revealing half of her pale face. Her gray pupils shone with misty ripples as she slowly stood up from Xing Yu's arms. A great-grandfather, this is between me and him. Don't interfere. Xing Yu said angrily, That brat already treated you like this, and you're still protecting him? Kai shook her head and said, He didn't do anything wrong. What he wanted to choose was his own business. A great-grandfather, you can't affect the relationship between the two temples because of us. Xing Yu looked at Kai, then looked at Yang Haohan, who had the throne of God as his background. He suppressed his anger and said, Let's go. He was the Alliance's deputy leader after all. How could he not understand the big picture? Kai shook her head again. A great-grandfather, you go first. Xing Yu looked at her doubtfully and said, What are you still staying here for? To let that little bastard humiliate you? He was hot-tempered and stubborn by nature, but he treated this great-granddaughter extremely well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have appeared here so impulsively because of what happened just now. Kai's eyes that couldn't see revealed a trace of sadness. She said softly, I just want to ask him one thing. Why? On the stage. Let go of me. Long Houchen roared at Ng Suifeng in anger. Because he was facing the 6 deputy leaders, he couldn't see what was happening behind him. The light barrier on the stage also isolated the sound behind him. As for the changes in the light, he didn't care at all. Although he couldn't see, how could he not know the pain Kai felt when she heard that he chose Lin Xian? Being grabbed by Ng Suifeng like this, he couldn't continue with his plan. Ng Suifeng was facing him, so he could naturally see the changes behind him. Seeing Xing Yu and Yang Wenjiao, these two great rank 9 powerhouses, appear at the same time in the training field, he knew that this matter wasn't something he could control. He angrily pushed Long Houchen and let him go. Han Qiu hurried forward and supported Long Houchen's body. Long Houchen didn't seem to care about Ng Suifeng's threat and pressure. He knelt down on one knee towards Han Qiu without hesitation. Lord Holy Knight Elder, I have a request. Han Qiu naturally saw the situation outside. This almost uncontrollable situation made him feel vexed at this time. He sighed and said, What request do you have? Long Houchen said resolutely, I want to give up the Spirit Stove reward for this year's challenge competition. I only ask that the Alliance can let me choose another person to enter the team. What? Han Qiu was shocked again. You said you want to give up the Spirit Stove? One had to know that using the Spirit Stove as the reward only appeared in the last few Monster Hunters trials. It could be said that even the most ordinary Spirit Stove was a treasure of heaven and earth. He actually wanted to give up the Spirit Stove? The other deputy leaders looked at each other, unable to make heads or tails of it for a moment. Han Qiu couldn't help but be slightly angry. What the hell are you messing around for? Long Houchen said firmly, Lord Holy Knight Elder, I'm not messing around. If the Alliance can't agree to my request, I want to give up forming the Monster Hunters team. I will compete again in 5 years. At that time, my request will still be the same. If the Alliance still can't agree to it, then I won't participate in the Monster Hunters team anymore. No. The 6 deputy leaders shouted almost at the same time. Han Q was afraid that Long Houchen wouldn't participate in the Monster Hunters team. The Monster Hunters team was the path that any of the 6 temples had to go through to advance to the top, and it was also the best path for growth. Long Houchen, who had the physique of the Son of Light, had already obtained the first place in this trial. If he gave up becoming a member of the Monster Hunters team, his future was likely to be ruined. As for the other 5 deputy leaders, their thoughts were the same. Compete again in 5 years? He was the first now. Who would be able to compete with him in 5 years? He would definitely be the first. How could they hope that such an unbeatable opponent would appear in 5 years? Long Houchen lowered his head and said, "Please agree to my request, Alliance." Han Q asked in a low voice, "Then who do you want to join your team?" Long Houchen immediately raised his head and said, "Assassin Temple's Kai Er. Although I have to choose one more person, it shouldn't affect the fairness of the Monster Hunters team. Lin Xian didn't enter the top 16, so I have to choose Kai Er. It's only because I made a promise with Lin Xian before participating in this competition that I have to choose him first. This was my promise back then. However, Kai Er is the person I have to protect for the rest of my life. I definitely can't be separated from her. If I can't have both, then I can only give up becoming a member of the Monster Hunters team and stay by Kai Er's side. No matter where she is, I will be there." Outside the light barrier, the sadness in Kai Er's eyes turned into dullness. Yang Haohan and Xing Yu's expressions also became interesting. After all this time, this brat still had such a trick up his sleeves? For a moment, the 2 ninth-stage powerhouses didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Yang Haohan's gloominess was even more intense than Xing Yu's. What was going on? So there were such twists and turns. But why didn't this brat tell the lady first? This was too muddle-headed. In reality, this really couldn't be blamed on Long Houchen. Firstly, today was the semi-finals. How could he have predicted that today would be the finals? Furthermore, Kai Er's strength was so strong that in Long Houchen's subconscious, he didn't even think about fighting for the top 2 places. Especially after the semi-finals had ended, he would be facing Kai Er, so naturally he wouldn't say what he was thinking. To him, he had to admit defeat. And Kai Er would be selected to be in the top 3. Long Houchen's plan was exactly the same as hers. He had even thought of avoiding Lin Xian's promise and giving up on fighting for the 3rd place. 5 years later, he would participate in the competition again and choose Lin Xian again. But who would have thought that Kai Er admitted defeat consecutively twice, completely wrecking Long Houchen's plan. And the finals also started at this time. At that moment, Long Houchen's heart was only thinking about Kai Er, who came to hug him first. If the finals were to be held tomorrow, even if Long Houchen's emotions fluctuated because of Kai Er's admission of defeat, he wouldn't have forgotten such an important matter, and the previous twists and turns wouldn't have happened. Even after the finals started, Long Houchen thought that before the roulette selection, there would be an opportunity to communicate with Kai Er. But who would have thought that the roulette selection rules didn't even let him return to Kai Er's side? Instead, it isolated him from the outside world, causing him to misunderstand that his voice couldn't be heard. It was precisely because of these many coincidences that he couldn't communicate with Kai Er in advance. After choosing Lin Xian, he was caught by Ying Suifeng, so he couldn't quickly say his plan to give up on the spiritual stove. The golden light faded, and the throne of God quietly retracted. Yang Haohan turned around and looked at Long Houchen on the platform. He snorted angrily, raised his right hand, and pressed his palm on the light barrier released by the platform. Immediately, the entire training field shook violently, and the light barrier disappeared. All right, that's it for today. Tomorrow, we'll continue with the roulette selection. All contestants, go back and rest. All temple deputy temple masters, stay back. Long Houchen, stay back. Hearing Yang Haohan's voice, Long Houchen turned his head. His gaze didn't even meet Yang Haohan's eyes, and directly fell on Kai Er. Kai Er. Seeing her exposed face that was shockingly pale, Long Houchen felt as if his heart had been stabbed by a sword. He couldn't care less about the big shots present, and ran towards Kai Er as fast as he could. "Get lost!" Xing Yu shouted angrily, and with a wave of his hand, an irresistible force slammed into Long Houchen's body. Immediately, he flew back at a speed faster than when he came, and smashed into the center of the round platform. This time, Yang Haohan didn't stop him. No matter what, it was Long Houchen who hurt the lady's feelings. If he didn't let the protective old man, Xing Yu, vent his anger, he would not let it go. Moreover, he had already told Xing Yu about Long Houchen's Son of Light constitution. He believed that Xing Yu would know when to stop. At this moment, a ball of red light flew out from the side like a cushion, and landed under Long Houchen. The red light ball was controlled wonderfully. With a gentle retraction and release, it actually dissolved Long Houchen's momentum, and supported his body to land steadily in front of the round platform. "Sir Hero, Miss Kai Er, please don't blame him. It's all because of me." A head of elegant, dark green hair appeared in everyone's sight. Lin Xian quickly walked between Long Houchen and Xing Yu, the chivalrous warrior. At this moment, his eyes were not as flashy as they used to be, and his entire person seemed very solemn. Facing Xing Yu, he slowly knelt down. "Sir Hero, if you want to punish someone, punish me. That day, before Long Houchen came to the Holy City, I met him in Imei City, and I lied to him and made a promise." A cold light flashed in Xing Yu's eyes. "Speak." When the sacred Magus Lin Chen saw Lin Xian running over, he was instantly shocked. However, he didn't step forward to stop his grandson. This matter had already involved 2 rank 9 powerhouses, and even with his status, he didn't have the right to intervene. Lin Xian knelt there and said seriously, "That day in Imei City, I used 3 bottles of medicinal pills to exchange for Long Houchen's promise to choose me as his partner if he could get top 3 in any of the future Monster Hunters trials. However, when exchanging for his promise, I concealed the fact that I didn't know how to use offensive magic. However, he should have known about the situation a long time ago, yet he still kept his promise and chose me after becoming the champion of the qualifier. I think you also hope that your future great-grandson-in-law is a person who keeps his promise. This is all my fault, I lied to him. I am willing to bear the responsibility today. I want to break my promise and no longer join his team. I will give my spot to Miss Kai Er." Xing Yu snorted angrily. "Does Kai Er still need to give her spot to anyone she wants?" At this moment, Long Houchen had already walked to Lin Xian's side and knelt down. Just based on Xing Yu's identity as Kai Er's great-grandfather, it was worth it for him to kneel. His eyes revealed a resolute expression as he said in a deep voice, "Sir Hero, in terms of the rules, I was not wrong. My mistake was to make Kai Er sad. However, you have no right to interfere with my choice, nor can you punish Lin Xian." Yes, Lin Xian hid the fact that he didn't know how to use offensive magic from me. However, what he gifted me was 3 bottles of a total of 34th-tier medicinal pills. If it wasn't for a reason, why would he be so generous? Since I chose to accept these pills, it was equivalent to choosing to accept the uncertainty. So, even if I had to choose again, I would still choose him. For Kai Er, I can give up my life, but since I have already made a promise, I will definitely keep it. As he spoke, Long Houchen pulled Lin Xian, who was beside him, and stood up just like that. Although Yang Haohan had already let the contestants leave, when Lin Xian appeared, these people unconsciously stopped in their track. Long Houchen's words just now were resolute and decisive. Facing Xing Yu, he actually didn't cower in the slightest. Not to mention the young contestants, even the 6 deputy temple masters of the 6 major temples all sucked in a breath of cold air. This kid actually dared to contradict Xing Yu, who was known to have the worst temper in the Temple League. Moreover, he did it in front of so many people. Xing Yu's bad temper was famous throughout the alliance. This matter was probably going to blow up. Xing Yu looked at Long Haochen with a slightly stunned expression. He didn't know how many years it had been since someone had talked back to him like this, especially when it had been a junior. Yang Haohen had already subconsciously moved to Long Haochen's side. Although he was also very depressed about the situation, Long Haochen wasn't just the son of the Holy Light. He was also the owner of the throne of God of Doomsday and Massacre, the only son of the Knights Templars, the Knight of the Seal, Long Xingwu. If Xing Yu attacked impulsively, he would protect Long Haochen no matter what. Moreover, deep down, he also felt that Long Haochen was right. "Shut up!" Kai suddenly shouted. Her figure flashed, and she rushed toward Long Haochen. A dark golden short sword appeared in her right hand, and she stabbed it at Long Haochen's chest. She knew a great-grandfather's temper too well. She was really afraid that a great-grandfather would attack. Even if the Defense and Coordination Knight of the Seal, the leader of the Temple League, Yang Haohen, stopped them, as long as a great-grandfather was really angered by Long Haochen, he wouldn't allow her to be with him. She had been quietly listening to everything that had just happened. She understood that this was a misunderstanding. In her heart, she didn't blame Long Haochen at all, even though she had been heartbroken. She only blamed herself for not trusting him and waiting for him to give her an explanation. If she hadn't vomited blood, a great-grandfather wouldn't have come and broken the rules of the preliminaries. Since she had attacked first, a great-grandfather naturally couldn't attack again. There was still room for negotiation. Given Long Haochen's cultivation, after blocking a few attacks, she could hit him a few times, and perhaps a great-grandfather would calm down. However, what Kai didn't expect was that Long Haochen didn't move at all in the face of her attack. Instead, he flipped his wrist and removed the Holy Spirit armor from his upper body. The dark golden short sword suddenly stopped a meter away from Long Haochen's chest. Kai's voice trembled slightly. Why didn't you dodge?" Long Haochen looked at Kai's pale face. He raised his hand and gently pulled back her veil. At a glance, he saw the dark red bloodstains on the veil. At that moment, he felt his heart clench, as if it was being crushed by a strong hand. Long Haochen softly said, "I kept my promise, I didn't do anything wrong. I also didn't violate the rules of the competition. However, I owe you an explanation. I made you sad. I was wrong. If I was wrong, I must be punished." A white light shot out from Long Haochen's chest like lightning without warning, instantly hitting Kai's right hand that was holding the dark golden short sword. Saint Spiritual Stove's evolved ability, traction. At such a close distance, so sudden. Even a Stage 9 powerhouse wouldn't be able to stop him. Puff! The dark golden short sword in Kai's hand, under the intense traction, instantly pierced into Long Haochen's right chest, all the way to the hilt. The tip of the sword protruded out from Long Haochen's back. Fresh blood immediately dyed his chest and back clothes red. However, Long Haochen didn't seem to feel this stab. He opened his arms and pulled Kai into his embrace. He softly said, "This is the hug you owe me." "Haochen!" Kai cried out in grief. She wanted to pull out her short sword, but Long Haochen hugged her tightly and wouldn't let go no matter what. The shock on Xing Yu's heroic face also turned into astonishment. He muttered to himself, "A mouthful of blood for a sword, it's not a loss." Yang Haohen frowned and looked at him. Xing Yu unhappily said, "What are you looking at me for? You're the Alliance Master. You can deal with it however you want. I'm going back to sleep. I really can't manage these children's matters." Yang Haohen was slightly taken aback, and her furrowed brows gradually relaxed. However, Xing Yu's lips moved a bit, seemingly saying something to him. The Knight of the Seal's face immediately darkened a bit. A black light flashed. Xing Yu took a step forward and disappeared. Yang Haohen's mouth twitched. Xing Yu's words were still echoing in his ears. "This kid isn't bad. His temperament is upright and outspoken. He's much better than a slick old fox like you. Long Haochen probably didn't expect that his contradiction would be recognized by Xing Yu. Of course, the sword attack from Kai also made Xing Yu really calm down. The Son of Light was finally worthy of his great-granddaughter, the reincarnation saintess. Haochen, let go of me, Kai anxiously whispered in Long Haochen's arms. That was a penetrating wound. How could she not know about her own weapon? The dagger even had the special effect of absorbing vitality. Long Haochen held her soft body. Although his face was gradually turning pale, his eyes gradually showed some relief when he saw Xing Yu leave. Kai, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Will you forgive me? Long Haochen pressed his face against her hair. Their ears rubbed against each other. He smelled the faint fragrance on her body. He actually didn't feel the pain from his wound. This is just a misunderstanding. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have doubted you. Haochen, I beg you. Let go of me. Kai didn't dare to struggle. Her dagger was extremely sharp. If the wound continued to expand, it would be even more troublesome. Long Haochen was slightly stunned. He smiled and said, I don't want to let go of you. It's not easy to get the chance to hug you. Kai said anxiously, Fool, I'll let you hug me again in the future. Let go of me. My dagger has the effect of absorbing vitality. If you continue like this, your vitality will be sucked dry. You promised to protect me forever. How can you not cherish your body? There was a hint of surprise in Long Haochen's eyes, and even a bit of slyness. He lowered his head and said softly, You have to keep your promise. Only then did he let go of her arms. Kai was already prepared. She pulled out her dagger at lightning speed. Instantly, arrows of blood shot out from Long Haochen's chest and back. His whole body also fell limply. Although Kai couldn't see, her movements were fast and accurate. As she quickly supported him, she tapped on his chest and back with her finger, sealing his blood vessels. A soft golden light with a holy hexagram quietly fell, shining on Long Haochen's body. Immediately, the blood stopped. Long Haochen only felt a soft warmth instantly enter his wound. The previous moment of coldness was instantly dispelled. The spiritual power in his body that seemed to be on the verge of collapse was also gathered by this warmth. His injury recovered at an astonishing speed. The one who did it was the deputy of the Temple of the Priests, Cardinal Ruo Shui. Lightly shaking her head, Ruo Shui couldn't help but say in a low voice, What a pair of little enemies! The Guardian Knight also had healing abilities, but compared to a priest who specialized in healing, there was still a gap. Even if it was the same holy skill, when used by a priest, the effect would be completely different. During the healing process, the priest could better control the effect of the skill. Their holy light spiritual power was also gentler. With a top-level cardinal like Ruo Shui, as long as his head wasn't chopped off, even if he wanted to die, it wouldn't be easy. Yang Haohen shook his head helplessly. He took a step forward, and with a flash of golden light, he also disappeared. Obviously, what happened next didn't require him to do anything. Han Qiu coughed and looked at the other 5 deputy. Everyone, what do you think of Long Haochen's request? Let me first say my opinion. Although this kind of situation had never happened before, but just like what Long Haochen said, although he chose 2 people, one of them didn't enter the top 16. This doesn't affect the overall fairness. Moreover, he's willing to pay the spiritual stove as a reward. Personally, I'm inclined to agree to his request. Suifeng, what do you think? Ing Suifeng snorted unhappily, thinking in his heart, this old fellow is too cunning. Little Princess Kai is here. How can I not agree? Yes, I have no opinion. Although he was very depressed, he still agreed. Sanshui snorted, saying, This doesn't seem to be in line with the rules. If the young people who participate in the future are all like this, are we going to be flexible every time? Sacred Magus Lin Chen smiled, saying, Sister Sanshui, you can't say that. This Long Haochen looks like he's only in his teens, yet he was able to become the final champion. I'm afraid it won't be easy for the young people in the future to reach his level. Moreover, this matter is really a bit of a coincidence, so I also agree to accept Long Houchen's suggestion. But, isn't the price of the spiritual stove a bit too high? It's better if there's another way. Han Q shook his head, saying, everyone is talking too much. If we don't use the reward as the price, won't everyone be able to choose more team members? How about this? We'll set the rules this time. In the future, the top 3 of the Monster Hunters qualifiers will have the right to give up the spiritual stove and choose one more person. But the person who chooses more can't be in the top 16. What does everyone think? Ruoshui nodded, saying, let's do it this way. It's more humane this way, I agree. The Warrior Temple's Deputy Hall Master Wakwang also nodded, saying, Brother Han's suggestion is very fair. It's not easy for these children to be able to cultivate to such a level at such a young age. They practically didn't have a childhood. As elders, we can't be too harsh on them. Having a good relationship in the same team can also strengthen their cooperation. Han Q smiled, saying, since everyone has agreed, I'll go back and immediately report to the Alliance Master and Deputy Alliance Master to discuss and approve it. It'll be announced during the roulette tomorrow. Long Houchen was overjoyed, bowing respectfully to the 6 Deputy Hall Masters, saying, thank you, seniors, for your help. Han Q glared at him unhappily, saying, hurry up and go back to rest. You brat. I really don't know what to say about you. Long Houchen stuck out his tongue. Until now, he finally looked like a 14-year-old youth. Han Q turned around, facing those participants who hadn't left yet, shouting, what are you still looking at? Everything in front of them was settled. The youngsters immediately dispersed. As for what they would discuss in private, it was hard to say. Lin Xian walked over quickly, looking at the blood stains on Long Houchen's chest. She felt her heart ache. Little brother, why did you do this? Long Houchen chuckled, but didn't say anything, only holding Kai Er's slightly cold hand tightly. Lin Xian didn't come over again, but the way he looked at Long Houchen was very different from before. Silently watching Long Houchen leave with the support of Kai Er and Lin Xian, he slowly clenched his fist. Cough cough. The sound of coughing woke Lin Xian from his silence. When he turned around, he saw his grandfather standing beside him with a solemn expression. Grandfather. Lin Xian lowered his head. Since young, he didn't know how many times he had been reprimanded by his grandfather. However, the angry scolding he expected didn't come. A big, warm hand landed on his shoulder and patted him gently. You can be considered a responsible man, to be able to take the initiative to stand up at that time. Once again patting his grandson's shoulder, Lin Chen strode away. The corner of his mouth curled up into a rare smile. His grandson, who was always an eyesore, seemed to have really grown up. He was very pleased that Lin Xian was able to stand up for Long Houchen and take the initiative to take responsibility. At least, his grandson didn't embarrass him. As a man, he had to take responsibility. Looking at his grandfather's back, Lin Xian suddenly felt something that had been suppressed in the depths of his heart suddenly surging out. His eyes instantly became moist. Using a voice that only he could hear, he murmured, Mother, if only you were still alive, how good would that be? Kai Er held Long Houchen's hand, checking his wrist pulse from time to time, checking his body's condition. Cardinal Ruoshui's healing ability was indeed powerful. The destructive effect of her dagger was completely dispelled. Long Houchen was now only a little weak from blood loss. The injuries on his body actually unknowingly healed. From this, it could be seen how important an outstanding priest was. It was the life insurance of the entire team. Kai Er sent Long Houchen back to the hotel, even stepping into Long Houchen's room for the first time. Lin Xian didn't stay any longer. She also checked Long Houchen's injuries. After confirming that he was fine, she slowly left, leaving the space for the young couple. Long Houchen pulled Kai to sit beside him, gently pulling down her veil. Kai quickly lowered her head, and her beautiful face that was exposed was immediately dyed red. Are you still feeling bad? You vomited blood just now. Long Houchen activated the holy light barrier on the wrist guard, covering both of their bodies. Feeling the warmth brought by the holy light barrier, Kai shook her head lightly. I'm sorry, Long Houchen. Today's matter started because of me. If I wasn't so agitated, I wouldn't have. Long Houchen was stunned. Kai, I clearly didn't tell you about Lin Xin in advance. How can I blame you? Kai shook her head and said, I didn't completely trust you. This is already the second time, and I won't allow it to happen again. No matter what you do in the future, I will unreservedly believe in you and support you. I won't let today's matter happen again. Looking at her beautiful face and listening to her words of self-blame, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Long Houchen couldn't help but open his arms and gently pull her into his embrace. Although Kai was slender, her body was very soft, and it was very comfortable to hold in his arms. When Long Houchen hugged her for the first time, he fell in love with this feeling. Kai's pretty face blushed even more, but she didn't resist and gently nestled in his arms. Her pretty face, which was usually expressionless, gradually revealed a faint trace of sweetness. Although today's matter caused both of them to be injured, and even disrupted the monster hunter's trials, but at the same time it also made them feel more important to each other. For Long Houchen, Kai successively admitted defeat twice to help her man. Moreover, because of Long Houchen's mistake, she vomited blood. It showed how important Long Houchen was in her heart. For her, Long Houchen was willing to give up a heavenly treasure like the spiritual stove, and was even willing to give up becoming a member of the monster hunters. In order to alleviate Xing Yu's bad impression of him, he didn't hesitate to harm himself to show his true feelings. Hugging each other, not only their bodies were close, but their hearts were also closer. It wasn't until evening that Long Houchen sent Kai back to her residence. Although there were so many twists and turns, the problem was finally solved. This made Long Houchen heave a sigh of relief. Not being separated from Kai was the main premise of everything. At this time, this problem was solved. Long Houchen now began to focus on the selection ceremony tomorrow. Who would become a member of the monster hunters? He had already chosen 2 people, Lin Xin and Kai. He still lacked 3 people. They were a priest, a warrior, and a summoner. Long Houchen didn't regret giving up the spiritual stove for Kai at all. In his heart, even 10 or 100 spiritual stoves couldn't compare to his Kai. Chapter 47. Early in the morning, the golden rays of the morning sun shone upon the holy city, bringing a touch of divine splendor to the most important city of mankind. The Knight Templar training grounds became lively once again. Many participants came early in the morning, and some who were familiar with each other were still enthusiastically discussing everything that happened yesterday. Whether it was the battle between Long Houchen and Yang Wenjiao, or the emotional entanglement that unfolded afterwards, they were all topics of discussion. Of course, the most discussed topic was the Throne of God that Yang Haohan released. The ones who were the most pleased were the participants of the Knights Templars. Seeing the Throne of God with their own eyes and listening to others talk about it was a completely different feeling. The boundless pressure of the Throne of God made even Xing Yu, who was also a Stage 9 powerhouse in the Assassin Temple, not dare to act rashly. That was a real divine weapon. Long Houchen, Kai and Lin Xin, the 3 of them came together. When they saw them enter the grounds, the other participants could not help but quiet down. They looked at Long Houchen with some admiration. Although this youth was young, he dared to challenge the rules of the alliance. He even dared to clash with a Stage 9 powerhouse. This kind of courage was not something that anyone could have. What made them even more surprised was that after doing all that, he was actually fine. However, there were also people who felt sorry for Long Houchen. What he gave up was a spiritual stove. and he was the champion, and had the first choice of the 3 spiritual stoves as a reward. This giving up was even more of a pity. After a night's rest, Lin Xian seemed to have adjusted his state of mind, and took the initiative to greet him, Long Haochen. Long Haochen smiled slightly, extended his right hand, and said, "Brother Lin, from now on, we are teammates on the same team." Lin Xian flicked his long dark green hair, extended his hand to shake his, and said, "Not just teammates, but also brothers." Both hands holding, Long Haochen nodded to him. When Lin Xian saw Lin Xian, her expression was still not good. She snorted coldly and turned her head away. If it wasn't for this fellow, there wouldn't be so much trouble. Back then, Lin Xian's 3 bottles of pills seemed to be very valuable. However, in the end, not only did he manage to join Long Haochen's team, but he also made Long Haochen waste a spiritual stove. His pills were just too valuable. Lin Xian did not mind and led Long Haochen and the other 2 to find seats in the front row. Not long after, all the contestants had arrived. The 6 deputy temple masters of the 6 great temples also slowly entered the arena, and once again stepped onto the platform where they had chosen their disciples yesterday. Han Q's emotions seemed to have completely returned to normal. Facing the contestants in the resting area, he said in a deep voice, "Yesterday, the qualifiers' individual competition had ended. Although there were some interludes at the end, overall, the Monster Hunter's trial had gone very smoothly. Many outstanding young people had emerged from each temple. Regarding this, we are very pleased. Next, before continuing with the selection ceremony, I would like to announce something." Naturally, the contestants knew what he was going to announce, but they still listened attentively. Han Q said, "In view of what happened yesterday and this year's champion, Long Haochen's request, after some discussion, we have submitted it to the chief and deputy chief for approval. Finally, we have decided that starting from this year's Monster Hunters trial, the top 3 of the individual competition can choose to give up the reward and choose one more person to join their Monster Hunters team. However, among the 2 people chosen, one of them must not be in the top 16. As soon as this was said, there was a sudden burst of discussion in the resting area. Long Haochen even vaguely heard some female contestants say, "If someone is willing to give up the spiritual stove for me, I will marry him." Turning his head to look at Kai Er, who had changed into a clean veil, Long Haochen smiled. Compared to Kai Er, what was the spiritual stove? Han Q said, "If no one has any objections, then we will start the selection ceremony again." Long Haochen, Yang Wenjiao, and Mu Ning went on the stage. Other contestants, please line up under the guidance of the staff. Long Haochen stood up and strode out. After the treatment last night, Yang Wenjiao and Mu Ning looked much better today. The 3 of them went on the stage together, and came in front of Han Q and the other deputy chief of the 6th temple. Han Q's eyes swept over the 3 of them and finally stopped on Long Haochen. "Long Haochen, I will ask you again. Do you still insist on the 2 choices you made yesterday and give up the spiritual stove as the reward?" Long Haochen nodded without hesitation and said, "Yes, my choice is still Kai Er and Lin Xian." Han Q nodded and said, "Okay." Kai Er and Lin Xian stepped out. "Are you willing to become a member of Long Haochen's team?" "I am willing." Lin Xian and Kai Er answered almost at the same time. Under the guidance of the staff, Kai Er and Lin Xian were led to the stage and stood in the first row. Han Q looked at Yang Wenjiao and said, "Yang Wenjiao, the 2nd place of the individual competition, you can also choose." Yang Wenjiao looked at the contestants below and finally fixed his eyes on a small figure. He said without hesitation, "I choose Chen Ying from the Soul Temple as my partner." Exclamations of surprise came one after another from the audience. Even the vice temple masters were confused. Only Han Q's eyes flashed with a hint of understanding. Many people were wondering what was going on with these 2 Knights Templars. Who was Chen Ying? At least she was not in the top 16. This Starlight Unicorn Night had such a precious opportunity to choose a person who was not in the top 16. Judging from the name, it was a girl. Did Knights Templars specialize in love? Han Qiu looked at the petite Chen Ying'er and said, Chen Ying'er, are you willing to become a member of Yang Wenjiao's team? Chen Ying'er looked at Yang Wenjiao on the stage and suddenly turned her head away. She said in a high-pitched voice, no. Boom! The audience was in an uproar again. The vice-temple masters of the 6 major temples all had an interesting look on their faces. Were these kids here to cause trouble? The one with the worst expression was San Shui. He suppressed his anger and did not say anything. Han Qiu's face darkened. He said, Chen Ying'er, are you sure? Chen Ying'er said without hesitation, I'm sure. Who would want to be with a monster hunter like him? Many female contestants looked at him with jealousy and confusion. In this year's competition, although Long Haochen was the final champion, the one who attracted the most female contestants was Yang Wenjiao. First was his age. Although Long Haochen was outstanding and handsome, he looked too young. It was impossible for those girls in their 20s to have any ideas about him. Secondly, it was naturally because of his relationship with Kai. They were so affectionate and inseparable. How could anyone else have a chance? But Yang Wenjiao was different. Not only was his age suitable, but he was also strong and had a beautiful mount like the Starlight Unicorn. It could be said that he was the ideal partner for most of the female contestants. When he heard that Yang Wenjiao had chosen Chen Ying'er, it was obvious that it was not because of strength. Han Qiu turned to Yang Wenjiao and said, Chen Ying'er isn't willing to join your team. You can choose again. Yang Wenjiao's expression was somewhat gloomy. Ying'er, what are you doing? However, what could he do if Chen Ying'er refused to cooperate with him? Even if he wanted to be like Long Haochen, he still needed the girl to be interested in him. Sighing inwardly, Yang Wenjiao hesitated for a moment before saying, I choose Huang Yi from the Magic Temple. Han Qiu nodded and said, Huang Yi, are you willing to become a member of Yang Wenjiao's team? Huang Yi, who was standing in the front row, answered without hesitation, I'm willing. Although Yang Wenjiao was a retribution knight, he was not a guardian knight. However, everyone could clearly see his strength. As an earth magician, Huang Yi was especially good at defense. Cooperating with him would naturally bring out the best in each other. Why wouldn't he be willing? Han Qiu's gaze finally fell on Mu Ning. The third place in the individual competition. Mu Ning, what is your choice? Mu Ning almost blurted out, I choose Knights Templars Duan Yi, and I'm willing to give up the position of team leader to him. He had already planned this choice yesterday. Long Haochen and Yang Wenjiao, who were in front of him, were both knight. Naturally, he couldn't choose knight to join his team. If there was someone with the best luck in this competition, then without a doubt, he would definitely be chosen. Duan Yi's strength was in no way inferior to Long Haochen and Yang Wenjiao. He was strong, and he was a guardian knight with a golden horned mammoth mount. Being able to be in his team was obviously the best choice. Therefore, in order to win Duan Yi's approval, Mu Ning even directly gave up the position of team leader. In terms of strength, he knew that he was not as good as Duan Yi. Moreover, his third place was originally picked up by chance. Everything was to pave the way for his future in Monster Hunters. Regarding this smart choice, Han Qiu couldn't help but slightly nod his head. His gaze looked at Duan Yi in the first row and said, Duan Yi, are you willing? Duan Yi looked at Mu Ning, and Mu Ning was also looking at him. Her eyes were full of sincerity. I am willing. Although he didn't enter the top 3, being chosen was also a kind of glory. Not to mention that the other party gave up the position of team leader to him. Getting into the top 3 in the individual competition of Monster Hunters, other than getting the spiritual stove reward, the biggest benefit was being the first to form a team. Of course, luck also played a part. After completing the direct selection ceremony, it was time for the roulette to go on stage. The whole audience was quiet, but every participant's eyes revealed excitement and expectation. Everyone hoped to be able to enter the top 3 teams in the individual competition. The stronger the team member's strength, the safer they would be when completing the mission. And the one who received the most attention was Long Haochen, followed by Duan Yi and Mu Ning's third team, and finally Yang Wenjiao. At this time, the Guardian Knight's advantage over the Punishment Knight was revealed. And Long Haochen's biggest advantage was naturally his Saint Spiritual Stove. The Saint Spiritual Stove's ranking was far from the Star Sea Spiritual Stove. It didn't have any actual offensive or defensive capabilities, but its attraction to the team members was enormous. Next, we will begin to assemble the first Monster Hunters team of this competition. Long Haochen, step forward and rotate the roulette. With you as the team leader, the Monster Hunters team will temporarily be called the number 1 Monster Hunters. Yes. Long Haochen appeared especially honest today. He respectfully complied and stood behind the roulette. There was a dedicated staff member operating the roulette. Gradually, 10 names appeared on the roulette. Han Q said, "First round, select the team's warrior members." The staff member placed a scarlet bead emitting a faint light into Long Haochen's hand. The roulette in front of him violently rotated, and the 10 names disappeared in a flash. All Long Haochen could see was a ring of light. Under the staff member's instructions, Long Haochen slowly placed the scarlet bead in his hand on the roulette. His fingers loosened, and the scarlet bead immediately fell into the rapidly rotating roulette. The intense bouncing and crisp sounds rang out. The concentrated sounds of collisions affected the hearts of all the contestants present. Especially the 10 warriors, their mood was exceptionally nervous. The roulette selection team was different from the previous selection. Once selected by the roulette, then they must join the team, unless they choose to give up and become a member of the Monster Hunters. If they gave up after the roulette was selected, they would not be allowed to participate in the Monster Hunters preliminaries. In the Monster Hunters preliminaries, this was known as the roulette's authority. The speed of the ring of light gradually slowed down, and the 10 names gradually became clear under the rapid rotation of the roulette. The deputy temple masters of the 6 major temples all stared at the roulette. At this time, if anyone dared to play tricks and tried to interfere with the roulette's fairness, they would immediately suffer the wrath of the 6 pinnacle level 8 powerhouses. Finally, the roulette's speed completely slowed down. One could clearly see the scarlet bead pulsating slowly. One name after another flitted by as it pulsated, and finally, it gradually stopped. It stopped. Long Haochen's eyes widened, and he saw the name clearly. After being stunned for a moment, his eyes immediately revealed obvious joy. Clearly, his luck was not bad, and he had chosen an outstanding warrior. Monster Hunters number 1, warrior, Wang Yuanyuan, stepped forward. Han Q announced the list of candidates selected by the roulette. Wang Yuanyuan, who was standing in the second row with a huge shield behind her, was stunned for a moment, and then she walked out excitedly. "Seems like my luck is not bad." Looking at Wang Yuanyuan striding out, under Han Q's signal, Long Haochen went up to welcome her, extended his hand, and said, "Welcome to the team." Wang Yuanyuan restrained the joy in her eyes, raised her hand and patted his palm. "You were lucky last time, and you won against me. If there's a chance in the future, I'll look for you to exchange pointers." Long Haochen laughed and said, "Sure." Wang Yuanyuan dragged her divine soul shield and stood behind Lin Xian, unable to restrain the smile on her face. Although she was a shield warrior, she didn't know how to defend. Long Haochen, on the other hand, was a knight with the dual attributes of guardian and retribution. He also had the Saint Spiritual Stove, and was the final champion of the individual competition. More importantly, after several encounters with him, and the scene from yesterday, Wang Yuanyuan clearly saw his true nature of valuing friendship and righteousness. Although he was a bit young, it was obviously a good thing to have such a knight in the team. Not to mention there was also Kair, the number 1 assassin in this competition, and possibly the #1 expert. As for a certain magician, he was directly filtered out by her. Long Houchen was also very satisfied. In the Monster Hunters competition, warriors were second only to priests. Although Wang Yuanyuan didn't enter the top 16, she had already broken through to the 5th rank. But Long Houchen had fought with her before, and had a deep understanding of her strength. He faintly felt that with the Divine Soul Shield, Wang Yuanyuan should be the strongest warrior in this competition. In his own team, although Lin Xian couldn't attack, so far, the 4 of them were all at the 5th rank. Moreover, 3 of them were actually the strongest in the temple in this competition. Returning to the back of the roulette, Han Qiu said, "Choose a priest in the team." Another 10 names appeared on the roulette, and it was exactly the same as before. The ring of light rotated rapidly, and the scarlet bead fell into Long Houchen's hand. "I hope there's an outstanding priest." Long Houchen didn't know much about priests, but in his opinion, a priest in the top 10 should be pretty good, so he didn't pay too much attention. The priests couldn't help but sink into a nervous mood. Among the priests in the top 10, only 3 were male, and the rest were all female. Moreover, they were beautiful, and each had their own advantages. At this moment, some of the priests even thought to themselves, as long as he isn't married, I have a chance. Only one person was an exception. Rubbing his big bald head, Sima Xian looked at the platform indifferently. It's just a 1 in 10 chance, what's there to be nervous about? How can I be that lucky? Moreover, it's different from who's in the team. If the other team members are a little weaker, maybe I can even be the team leader. The roulette stopped, and Long Houchen, who was standing behind the roulette, had an obvious look of shock in his eyes. Han Qiu said, "Monster Hunters #1, Priest Sima Xian, step forward." It's me?" Sima Xian almost jumped up, pointing at his own nose. Everyone's gaze fell on him. Looking at his shiny bald head and the strong muscles hidden under the loose priest robe, they couldn't help but look at him strangely. This is a priest?" Sima Xian strode out. Although Long Houchen was a little surprised, he hurried to greet him. In fact, in the depths of his heart, Sima Xian was the last person he was willing to choose. There was no lack of attackers in the Monster Hunters, and a priest who specialized in healing was the most important. However, everything wouldn't go smoothly, and he just picked a 10% chance. A violent priest meant that there wouldn't be a specialized healing profession in the team. "Welcome to the team." Long Houchen extended his hand to Sima Xian. Sima Xian used his hand, which was at least 2 sizes bigger than Long Houchen's, to wrap it around Long Houchen's hand. He laughed and said, "I haven't had time to return the favor from last time. It's not bad to be in the same team as you." After saying that, he rubbed his big bald head again, lifted the terrifyingly heavy staff, and strode to the back of Wang Yuanyuan. Looking at him, Long Houchen secretly comforted himself. No matter what, he's still the strongest among the priests. Yes. Which other priest can go berserk? There was still one person left, the summoner from the Spirit Temple. Choose the summoner in the team. Han Qiu looked at Sima Xian, his eyes revealing a thoughtful look. The wheel spun for the 3rd time. Due to his good luck, when choosing the priest, Long Houchen deliberately paused for a moment before putting the crimson bead into the wheel. After a while, the roulette gradually came to a stop. When the scarlet bead finally came to a stop, not only was Long Houchen dumbfounded, but even the 6 vice palace lords who were in charge of supervising the roulette, as well as Yang Wenjiao and Mu Ning who were standing next to the roulette, were dumbfounded. If the most famous participant in this year's Monster Hunters trial was chosen, it would not be Long Houchen, nor would it be Yang Wenjiao, nor would it be the powerful Kair, or the weird bald priest, or Wang Yuanyuan who used a shield as a battle axe. There was only one person who could make everyone know about it, even the upper echelons of the 6 sacred halls. That was, in the preliminary round, she only appeared once, but with a level 8 summoned beast, no one in the Spirit Temple dared to compete with her again. She won the first place in the preliminary round of the Spirit Temple. However, in the following group matches, she showed that she relied entirely on luck, was absolutely unreliable, and was the owner of the Living Gate summoning skill, Chen Ying. At this moment, the bright and eye-catching crimson bead stopped right in front of this name. Spirit Emperor Sanshui's eyes suddenly became strange. He looked at Long Haochen, then at Yang Wenjiao, sighed heavily, and withdrew his eyes. The corner of Long Haochen's mouth twitched. Could it be that his luck had really run out? How could it be her? He still clearly remembered the little lamb that Chen Yinger summoned when fighting against Wang Yuanyuan. Not only was this girl's summoning skill random, but she could only summon the Living Gate once with all her spiritual power. At this moment, the only thought in Long Haochen's mind was that this roulette was really fair. Han Q's face instantly returned to normal, and he announced in a deep voice, "Number 1 Monster Hunters, Summoner, Chen Yinger, step out." Chen Yinger jumped up happily and said with a smile, "Wow, that's great, I can continue to be with Sister Yuanyuan." She quickly ran out, but just waved at Long Haochen, and didn't even shake hands with him, and ran to Wang Yuanyuan. When Wang Yuanyuan heard Han Q's announcement, her face also fell. Looking at Chen Yinger, who was thrown to her excitedly, she said helplessly, "I don't want to be in the same group with you. You little girl, you're practically a burden on the battlefield." Chen Yinger didn't mind, and pulled Wang Yuanyuan's hand and shook it. "Sister Yuanyuan, you can't dislike me. I can be very powerful sometimes." On the stage, Han Q announced, "Number 1 Monster Hunters, Team Leader, Long Haochen, Knight. Assassin, Kair Warrior, Wang Yuanyuan, Magician, Lin Xian, Priest, Sima Xian, Summoner, Chen Ying. Team formation complete." From this moment on, Long Haochen's group of 6 became a team. Unless someone died, it would continue until the end of their Monster Hunter's career. After the announcement, Han Q felt like laughing himself. This team of Monster Hunters was probably the weirdest team in the history of Monster Hunters. He didn't know if it was the team leader of Discipline or Guardian Knight, or the blind assassin who couldn't see. These 2 were the most reliable. As for the remaining 4, each one was definitely more unreliable than the previous one. A shield warrior who couldn't defend, a magician who couldn't attack, a priest who couldn't heal, and a summoner who didn't know what he could summon. Each of them was the weirdest of weirdos. However, it just so happened that these 6 weirdos were the champions of the preliminaries and finals of the various sanctums in this year's selection tournament. No one knew what kind of sparks this team would create, but no matter what, this Monster Hunters team was now complete. Long Haochen walked off the stage, and stood together with his team members. At this moment, his mood was a little strange, but he didn't blame anyone or anything. No matter what, at least he could be together with Kair. As for the flaws in the team, he would think of a way to make up for it. Yang Wenjiao, begin the selection ceremony for your team. From now on, your Monster Hunters will be temporarily named Monster Hunters Number 2. Ah! Yang Wenjiao's gaze was still on Chen Yinger. When he saw that Chen Yinger had been selected by Long Haochen, he couldn't help but feel a little depressed. He only came to his senses when he heard Han Q's words. In the selection ceremony for Monster Hunters Number 2, his luck was slightly better than Long Haochen's. At the very least, the team members he selected were relatively normal. Moreover, when it came to the summoner selection, he chose Liao Yu, the Tier 5 summoner who entered the top 8 in the summoning temple. This made Yang Wenjiao's mood improve significantly. Huang Yi and Liao Yu's strength were quite good, ranked among the best in their respective temple. When it came to Monster Hunters Number 3, Mu Ning chose his team members. It seemed that he had used up all his luck. Among the 4 members he selected, only the summoner made it into the top 16. It was Fang Zhu, the summoner who summoned the giant bear against Kair, but she was only at the Tier 4 level. The first 3 Monster Hunters had been selected. Next, it was time for the remaining participants to be divided into teams. The fourth Demon Hunt squad made people's jaws drop. According to the order, the first person chosen for Monster Hunters number 4 was Knight. It was Lin Xian. Next, Lin Xian's luck could be described as extremely good. The warrior she selected was the Tier 5 warrior who entered the top 8, but was defeated by Mu Ning. His overall strength was probably second only to Wang Yuan in the warrior temple. The assassin was one of the top 16. As for the magician, he selected a rare space magician. He was also at the peak of the Tier 4. As for the priest, he selected the only Tier 5 bishop priest among the participants of the Temple of the Priest. The last summoner was selected by Xiaoma, the plant summoner who had caused Yang Wenjiao a lot of trouble, and finally defeated him with the help of the Fire of the Sun. In Lin Xian's team, the strength of each member might not be the strongest, but it was the most average. Especially the priest and the summoner. A strong priest could ensure the team's continuous fighting strength, and by Xiaoma, the plant summoner who was good at controlling the situation, made up for Lin Xian's weak defense as a punishment knight. As expected, the position of the fourth Demon Hunt squad's leader fell on the sole fifth step priest. The roulette continued to spin, and one Monster Hunters was formed. The whole selection ceremony lasted for a whole morning before it was finally completed, from the 1st to the 10th Monster Hunters. Looking at the members of the Monster Hunters standing in 10 rows, Han Q said, "From now on, you have officially become a member of the Monster Hunters. You are the most important partners to each other, partners you can trust with your back. In the history of the Alliance, there have been countless Monster Hunters who stood at the peak of glory. I hope that one day you can also become one of them. You have to remember, never blame your teammates. Today you may not rank high in the final competition, but in the near future, you may become the strongest. From now on, everyone will rest for 3 days. At the same time, each Monster Hunters team leader will bring your team members to the Monster Hunters Mission Tower to complete the registration within these 3 days, and get your Monster Hunters number. 3 days later, the top 16 participants will go to the treasure house of the Sanctuary Alliance in the morning to choose a secret skill. From 9 to 16, they could choose 1 secret skill, while from 1 to 8, they could choose 2 secret skills. Apart from Long Houchen, the top 3 can each get a spiritual stove. The reward will be given by the temple. Now dismissed. When the word dismissed was said, all the participants felt a sense of relief. It was finally over. From the initial preliminaries to the group stage and then to the finals, it had been close to a month. The stronger the person, the more battles they had experienced. Now that the preliminaries were finally over, the participants who had entered the top 60 finally had their own teams, and they could finally relax for a while. As for how the following team competition would proceed, they were not sure, and there was no need to think too much about it for the time being. They would first relax and rest for a few days. Captain, it was fate that brought us together as a demon hunt squad. Today, I'll be the host and treat everyone to a good meal. Lin Xian said very straightforwardly. Long Houchen laughed and said, "Don't call me team leader, just call me by my name. What do you all think?" Sima Xian glanced at Lin Xian and said, "I have no objections, but I have a big appetite." Lin Xian laughed and said, "I will definitely let you eat until you are full." Wang Yuan said carelessly, "I have no objections either. Since someone is treating, it would be a waste not to eat." Chen Ying'er laughed and said, "Okay." Kai naturally wouldn't say anything more, only nodding her head lightly. Being held by Long Houchen's little hand, she exuded a bit of gentleness. However, these people here had all seen her display her might before, so none of them dared to look down on her. Long Houchen was young, after all. Although he had won the final championship, he might not be a deterrent enough. However, if Kai was added to the mix, among the younger generation, no one would be unconvinced. It was not only the Monster Hunters who were like this. It was lunchtime, and the other members of the Monster Hunters also needed to get to know each other. Almost all of them chose to have a meal together to get to know each other. Lin Xian led the group out of the night trial field, turned right, and walked for a short distance before entering another street. After walking for less than 100 meters, they arrived at a 5-story hotel. The hotel was magnificent, and there were 8 tall girls in cool clothes in charge of welcoming the guests. Sima Xian looked at them in a daze. It was obviously not Lin Xian's first time here. He let the girl at the door lead the group into the hotel, and they came to a spacious room on the 3rd floor facing the street with ease. He gave a few instructions to the waiter. Sitting around the table, the 6 of them, except for Kai, felt like they were staring at each other. Although they had seen each other before, they were not very familiar with each other. Lin Xian stood up and said with a smile, "How about this? We will be a team from now on. How about we introduce ourselves first? The main point is to introduce our abilities, so that it will be easier for the team leader to deploy us in future operations. I'll go first. My name is Lin Xian, 19 years old this year, 1.8 meters tall, 69 kilograms, unmarried. TSK, can't you say something practical?" Chen Ying rolled her eyes. "Are you looking for a husband?" Lin Xian was not annoyed and said, "Fine, then let's talk practical. I am a level 2 magic shooter of the 5th step. I specialize in magic control and magic defense. I am also a potion apothecary and can refine all kinds of pills. Not to mention, I am confident that within 3 months I can use the pills I refine to help any of you who have not yet reached the 5th step break through to the 5th step." Among the 6 of them, there were 2 who had not broken through to the 5th step. They were the violent priest Sima Xian and the unreliable lowly summoner Chen Ying. Hearing his words, the 2 of them suddenly widened their eyes. Wang Yuanyuan also had a strange look in her eyes. They were very clear about the price of pills, especially pills that could be used for cultivation. Naturally, they did not expect that this seemingly useless magician who had a high cultivation but did not know how to attack was actually a potion apothecary. Looking at it this way, he seemed to have some use in the team. Long Haochen said, "I can prove it for Brother Lin. Back then, he gave me some pills, and it was with the help of one of the pills that I named Spirit Gathering Pill that I was able to break through to the 5th step during the competition." Lin Xian very frankly said, "I do not know how to use offensive magic, but I will definitely do as much as possible for us monster hunters. During the battle, I can carry out defense, and at the same time, provide all kinds of pills for everyone." As a magician who did not know how to attack, what he was most worried about was not being accepted by everyone. If that was the case, even if he joined the monster hunters, he would not be able to blend in. Sima Xian laughed and said, "No wonder you always shouted that your brother had pills during the competition. So you really are a potion maker. As long as it is not fake, it is fine." Lin Xian said unhappily, "You are not much more reliable than me. I do not know how to attack, but as a priest, how can you heal? I am afraid this will be a big problem for our team in the future. I still need to make more pills in preparation." Sima Xian laughed. "All right, let's not talk about Big Brother, Second Brother. In our team, apart from the leader and Miss Kair, who is really reliable?" Wang Yuanyuan's elegant eyebrows rose. "Who are you calling unreliable? This lady is a strong warrior." Sima Xian snorted and said, "I have long heard that a shield warrior like you with a shield cannot defend at all. How reliable can you be? As for Inger's famous name, it is like thunder piercing the ears. The most unreliable summoner in history, don't you know?" Chen Inger unconcernedly waved her fingers and said, "Unreliable now does not mean unreliable in the future. In any case, fighting and killing is the business of you men. I am cheering for you." Chapter 48. Just as the members of the first Demon Hunt Squad, with Long Haochen as their leader, were cursing each other for being unreliable while eating heartily, at the headquarters of the Sacred Alliance, the first thing Han Qian did after returning was to summon Han Yu. "Grandpa, is the team over?" Master isn't back yet. How's the situation? Han Yu was used to addressing Long Haochen as his grandfather. Over the past few days, when Long Haochen went to participate in the competition, he stayed in the hotel to cultivate and did not go out. He was waiting for the Monster Hunters challenge to end. Han Qiu looked at his grandson, who had obviously become much more mature these days. He smiled and said, "Not good, but not bad. The composition of Long Haochen's Monster Hunters is a bit strange. That's why I called you here." Then, he explained the results of Long Haochen's draw in detail. Han Yu had been listening attentively with a thoughtful look in his eyes. Han Qiu pointed to the chair next to him and gestured for him to sit down. "Tell me your opinion." Han Yu said, "On the whole, it's really strange. However, it's still an excellent Monster Hunters. First of all, in terms of knight and assassin, it's almost impeccable. Master and Miss Kai Er's performance in the preliminaries is enough to prove it. In terms of warrior, Wang Yuan, who has the Divine Giant Soul Shield, is also quite strong. In a sense, that Sima Xian can also be called a berserker. With 2 warriors in the team, the attack power of the Monster Hunters will definitely be greatly enhanced. In terms of mage, although Lin Xian's attack power is not good, I heard that his magic control and magic defense are far superior to his peers. Except for Miss Kai, it seems that no one can break through his defense. In fact, in the team, he's mainly responsible for defense, or even used as a shield warrior." At this point, Han Qiu nodded slightly, indicating for him to continue. Han Yu continued, "As for magical attacks, Master's triple elemental magical beast companion is quite powerful. It can almost be compared to 3 mages. Perhaps because it could not use equipment, any of its attributes could not be compared to a magician of the same level. However, with the 3 attributes added together, it was definitely better than most Tier 5 magicians. If it can continue to grow, we won't have to worry about the role of the magician." Han Qiu was obviously very satisfied with his grandson's analysis. He smiled and said, "What about summoners?" Han Yu shrugged his shoulders and said, "I've never thought that summoners below the 6th grade would be of much use. A strange summoner like Chen Inger obviously could not be counted on. However, as long as her master didn't consider her battle prowess during the team battle, she would be able to win. She might even bring us a surprise. After all, she had once used the Living Soul Gate to summon a level 8 magical beast." At this point, Han Yu paused and frowned, saying, "In the entire team, the only shortcoming is the priest profession. Although Master, as a guardian knight, also has a certain healing ability, and his magical beast companion also has the light attribute, they are not true priests. Master has to preside over the entire team, and is the cornerstone of the entire team. He also has the Saint's spiritual stove, so we can't expect him to pay too much attention to healing. As for his magical beast companion, I'm afraid it will only pay more attention to him." "Very good." The smile on Han Qiu's face became a bit wider. "It seems that after Haochen gave you this time, you've really matured a lot. You've turned a bad thing into a good thing. Your analysis is very correct, and you're also very thorough. The biggest problem in Haochen's team is the healing. However, in your analysis, you've forgotten one person." "Who?" Han Yu looked at his grandfather with some curiosity. Han Qiu smiled indifferently, saying, "Yourself. Don't forget, you're also a guardian knight, and a guardian knight that doesn't need to be the team's main defensive force. If you want to play an indispensable role in Haochen's team, you've already analyzed what you should do." Han Yu's heart moved. "You're saying that my future skills should lean towards healing?" Han Qiu slightly nodded, saying, "Healing and support. What you need to do is to strengthen the entire team's survivability on the battlefield, so that Haochen at the forefront has no worries." Han Yu's eyes lit up. He was originally a smart person, and with his grandfather's reminder, he immediately thought through a lot of things. Come back in 3 days. Before you leave, grandfather has something to give you." Yes, grandfather. After returning to the hotel, Long Houchen's mood couldn't calm down for a long time. The monster hunters had been established, and the faces of the members of the team kept flashing in his mind. After all, he was only 14 years old this year. No matter how steady and mature he was, age still had a lot of constraints on him. If possible, he really wanted to give up the position of the team leader and let someone with virtue take it. But could he really give it up? In his own team of monster hunters, each one was definitely more unreliable than the other. Kair also obviously expressed that she didn't want to be the leader. In the end, the only one who could win the trust of everyone was him. From today onwards, he was no longer one person, but 7 people. He had to be responsible for the life of each of his companions, responsible for each of their actions. In the blink of an eye, 4 days passed. In these 4 days, Long Houchen and his team mainly did 2 things. One was to go to the demon hunting tower at the side of the great trial field of the Covenant Alliance to officially register as a member of Monster Hunters. The Monster Hunters themselves were divided into levels. The higher the level of the Monster Hunters, the more difficult the missions they could take, and the corresponding rewards would be higher. From low to high, the Monster Hunters were divided into 6 levels. Soldier level, General level, Commander level, King level, Overlord level, and Legend level. Every level had extremely strict requirements, and the promotion could only be successful after all the requirements were met. For example, to advance from soldier level to colonel level, the cultivation of all the team members had to be above the 5th rank, and each of them had to have more than 1,000 merit points. The total merit points of the team had to be more than 10,000. That was the easiest. The highest legend level would give the monster hunters their own title. In order to advance to this level, the first requirement was to kill at least 1 demon god ranked in the top 36 among the 72 demon god pillars. One could well imagine how difficult it was to accomplish this. Whether the members of Monster Hunters wanted to exchange for equipment or secret skills, they all relied on merit points. After completing the registration, each of them had a pale gold gemstone token implanted in their left arm using their blood. This token would accompany them until the end of their Monster Hunters journey. When they were hunting demons, this token, which was equivalent to a piece of spirit demon equipment, could automatically identify them, record them, and increase their merit points. When they completed other missions, the Demon Hunter Mission Tower would increase their merit points accordingly. Long Houchen had won the Monster Hunters trials this time, so he had 100 merit points. Kair, who was in the top 4, had 50 merit points. The others did not make it into the top 16, so they only had a minimum of 10 merit points. Relying on his 100 contribution points, under Kair's reminder, Long Houchen directly went to the Demon Hunt Squad's trading center to exchange for 3 items, spending a total of 150 contribution points, completely exhausting the 2's contribution points from the competition. The 3 items were the Merit Testing Gemstone, the Internal Spiritual Power Testing Gemstone, and the External Spiritual Power Testing Gemstone. The Merit Testing Gemstone only needed to be attached to the Merit Gemstone token on their left arm, and the corresponding merit points would appear, so that they could check their gains from the battle with demons. This was very important to boost the morale of the team. As for the Internal Spiritual Power Testing Gemstone, the one Long Houchen bought could withstand the impact of 10,000 internal spiritual power, and the External Spiritual Power Testing Gemstone could withstand the pressure of 1,000 external spiritual power. With these 2 gemstones, the team members could check their status and the results of their training at any time. None of the 3 items were expensive, but they were more practical. They were essential for any monster hunters. Apart from the registration, the other thing was to enter the treasure vault of the Covenant Alliance again. Although Long Houchen could not get the spiritual stove as a reward, he and Kair could both choose 2 secret skills to practice. Long Houchen, who had Long Xingwu's inheritance ring, naturally chose the Guardian Knight skills. He chose a skill to enhance personal defense and a skill to enhance all. Since he was the leader of the monster hunters and the core of the whole team, he naturally had to consider the whole team when choosing skills. The day before choosing the secret skills, Han Yu had talked to him once. Otherwise, Long Houchen's choice would probably be more inclined to the healing skills. At the same time that he had obtained the secret skill yesterday, Long Houchen had also received a notice, ordering him and his team members to pack their luggage. Early in the morning, they would assemble and set off. It was unknown where they would go to participate in the team competition of the newly formed Demon Hunt Squad. Teacher. After knocking on Yi Hua's door, Long Houchen closed the door and knelt in front of Yi Hua. Yi Hua was startled by him. "What's wrong, Long Houchen? What are you doing?" Long Houchen did not speak, but first kowtowed to him 3 times, and then raised his head with tears in his eyes. "Teacher, we are going to set off today. I can't bear to leave you." Staring blankly at Long Houchen's beautiful face and those sparkling eyes, Yi Hua's usually cold expression gradually became emotional. He held on to Long Houchen's arm and lifted him up, pulling him into his embrace. No matter how outstanding he was still only a 14-year-old youngster. Yi Hua had never married in his life, so naturally, he did not have any children. Unknowingly, he had long regarded Long Houchen as his own son in these few years. That's right. They were going to separate soon. Long Houchen couldn't bear to part with him, so how could he bear to part with this child who was both a disciple and a son? "Long Houchen, has teacher been very fierce to you these few years?" Yi Hua's voice was obviously a little hoarse. Long Houchen shook his head with all his might, and leaned against Yi Hua's not-so-wide chest. The time he spent with Yi Hua was even longer than that of Long Xingwu. He was born to be the son of light, and his heart was clear and bright. He was especially able to sense whether the people around him treated him well or not. Yi Hua treated him well from the bottom of his heart. In his heart, although Yi Hua wasn't as glorious and powerful as his father, his position wasn't low at all. Yi Hua chuckled and said, "You are the best student that teacher has ever taught in my entire life. Teacher knows that my teaching method has always been very strict. However, you have been learning from me for so long, but you have never complained about it. You were able to obtain your current achievements at the young age of 14. Although your physique as the son of light is important, your own hard work is also the key to success. Now, you have already become a member of the Monster Hunters, and you are also gradually growing up. Although teacher can't be by your side, no matter what, teacher will always pray for your safety. I have already discussed with your Grandmaster, and we will stay in the Holy City, and won't return to Haoyue City. In the future, when you come back to submit your mission, you can look for me at the Holy Alliance's executive office. Although you are young, you are honest, calm, and kind. Teacher is very confident in you. However, you are too sentimental. Teacher's only warning to you is that no matter what, safety is the most important. Think thrice before you encounter anything, and don't advance rashly. You must have your own opinions, but you must also listen to the suggestions of your companions. Teacher believes that you will definitely become an outstanding team leader of the Monster Hunters. Teacher I. Long Houchen listened to Yi Hua's words, and in his arms, he was already sobbing uncontrollably. Yi Hua laughed out loud, then patted Yi Hua's back hard. "All right, you are already a grown man, don't act like a little girl. Go, when a young eagle grows up, it will eventually spread its wings and soar in the sky. One day, your brilliance will illuminate the entire Holy Alliance, and even the entire continent." As he spoke, Yi Hua hugged his shoulders, opened the door, and gently pushed him out. With a bang, the door was closed. The next moment, Yi Hua's back leaned heavily against the door. His hands, his heart, and the tears in his eyes were all trembling slightly. Outside the door, Long Houchen's shouts could be heard. "Teacher, I will definitely come back to see you often." Yi Hua couldn't hold back his tears anymore, and they flowed out. He covered his mouth, trying his best not to cry out loud. The sound of Long Houchen's footsteps resounded, and it seemed as if all of Yi Hua's strength had been sucked out. If he was really my son, how great would that be? Lin Xian stood in front of the hotel, and when she saw Long Houchen walking out, she hurriedly went up to him and rubbed his head. Silly brother, it's not like we will be separated forever. If you want to repay teacher Yi Hua, then you have to make him proud of you, and let him feel the glory of the night that you emit. Long Houchen nodded his head lightly, and reluctantly looked at the window of Yi Hua's room from the outside, and clenched his fist. Sister, let's go. Holy Alliance's Great Trial Field, Night Trial Field. The newly formed monster hunters had all gathered. Because it was a newly formed monster hunters, they were all soldier level, and they were ranked accordingly. For example, Long Houchen and the others were soldier level number 1 monster hunters. Because, currently, there were only 10 soldier grade demon hunt squads, and they were the only 10 newly established squads. Let me introduce to everyone, this is Han Yu, my squire knight. After Long Houchen met up with his companions, the first thing he did was to introduce Han Yu to everyone. Because they were going to leave this place soon, Han Yu stayed at home yesterday. This morning, he met up with Long Houchen at the entrance of the night trial field. Squire Knight? In Long Houchen's group, other than Kair, the other 4 people couldn't help but be surprised. Sima Xian's eyes widened and he patted his bald head. Boss, you still have a Squire Knight? Long Houchen laughed and said, although Brother Lin is my Squire Knight, he is also my friend. He is a rank 5 Guardian Knight. With him joining, our group's strength will definitely become stronger. Sima Xian, Lin Xian, Wang Yuan, and Chen Inger looked at each other, and their hearts were filled with shock. Knights Templars were too strong. This rank 5 knight was clearly not even 25 years old, but he still couldn't enter the finals of the Monster Hunters trial? Or could it be that he didn't even participate in the finals, and had always been Long Houchen's squire? Sima Xian laughed and said, welcome. Today, Lin Xian's expression was somewhat weary. His face was pale, and even his usually meticulously combed long hair was somewhat messy. He nodded to Han Yu, but didn't say anything. Wang Yuan had an eager expression and said, Guardian Knight. Then I'll have to test your strength when I get the chance. Han Yu smiled faintly and said, I'm only Master's squire. Protecting Master's safety is my first principle. I also have an achievement crystal plate, but according to the rules of Monster Hunters, as a Squire Knight, my achievement will not be counted in the group's total achievement. Hearing the word contribution, even the somewhat weary Lin Xian's eyes lit up. Chen Inger blinked her big eyes and said, you can exchange for a lot of good things. Their experience in the Demon Hunt Squad Trade Center could be said to have broadened their horizons. At their current level, although they could only use their contribution points to exchange for items on the first floor of the trade center, it still made them deeply aware of the importance of contribution points. The weapons and equipment that soldier rank monster hunters could exchange for were actually of the spirit demon rank, and there were even a few glory rank equipment. All kinds of medicinal pills could also be exchanged. There were also many things that they had never seen in the market but were incomparably useful. Everyone who looked at them had the desire to drool. However, these things couldn't be bought even if you had money. The Demon Hunters Center only accepted the exchange of achievement. Even the members of Monster Hunters could barter with other items or directly purchase them with achievement. Without a doubt, the Sanctuary Alliance's arrangement was to stimulate the desire of all the members of Monster Hunters for achievement, and to stimulate the strength of Monster Hunters. Even though these Monster Hunters were well aware of this, it still had an excellent effect. There were already so many good things in the Soldier Rank Trade Center. Wouldn't there be even more good things in the higher Captain Rank, General Rank, and even King Rank? Wang Yuan said, I've asked around. There are 2 main ways to obtain achievement. The most direct way is to kill demons. Any demons will do. The most common demons of the Zebran tribe can also be exchanged for one achievement. Other than that, it's to complete the missions issued by the mission tower. Long Houchen laughed and said, "Don't be anxious, everyone. Our group has just been formed, and we're not familiar enough with each other yet, let alone tacit understanding. We'll try our best to get used to each other for a period of time, and then gradually increase the difficulty of the missions." Cherninger stuck out her tongue and said, "Captain, you're very timid." Today, this little lowly was wearing a white magic robe, and her purple hair was combed into 2 small braids. She looked very cute and lovely. Lin Xian snorted and said, "You're not timid at all. I heard that you can summon sheep." That's not bad, it saves us the trouble of bringing food." Cherninger said angrily, "Damn sissy, who are you talking about?" There were now 4 men in the group, including Han Yu. All 4 of them were good-looking. Sima Xian's appearance was square and resolute, Han Yu was handsome, and Long Houchen was needless to say. From his face, there was not a single flaw at all. Lin Xian's appearance was second only to Long Houchen's. However, he was a magician, so his figure was a little more delicate. He was not as well proportioned as Long Houchen. He also had long hair. Therefore, this sissy nickname was established. "I'm not a sissy, I'm a real man." Lin Xian was furious. Wang Yuanyuan frowned and said, "All right, what are you 2 arguing about? The most important thing is to think about how to earn merit points." Lin Xian flipped his wrist, and 2 bottles of pills appeared in his palm. He threw 1 bottle to Sima Xian and said, "These are the spirit-gathering pills that Captain mentioned. Each pill can increase internal spiritual power by at least 10 points. At the same time, it has the effect of promoting cultivation. It's useful for those below the 5th rank. There are 10 pills in the bottle, use them first." Sima Xian was overjoyed. He quickly took the bottle and gave Lin Xian a thumbs up. "Good brother, I won't be polite with you." Words of thanks were better than words of thanks. In the team, only Sima Xian and Chen Inger were below the 5th rank. Seeing that Lin Xian took out 2 bottles of pills, how could Chen Inger not understand? She immediately laughed and moved closer. "There are good and bad sissies. You must be a good sissy. You won't argue with a kid, right?" Lin Xian rolled his eyes. "Don't call me a sissy in the future." Chen Inger snatched the pills from his hand and patted his shoulder. All right, we're all on the same side. Don't be so calculative. In the future, when we fight, I'll protect you." Lin Xian's nose almost went crooked from anger. "You want to protect me?" Chen Inger puffed out her small chest and said, "Why can't I protect you? Just wait and see." Cough cough. At this moment, a cough came from the side. Long Houchen turned his head and saw Yang Wenjiao coming to his side. "Brother Long, can I have a word with you?" Yang Wenjiao very politely asked Long Houchen. Long Houchen nodded. Of course. The 2 were competitors in the tournament, but Long Houchen had a very good impression of Yang Wenjiao. Not only was Yang Wenjiao strong, he was also calm. More importantly, since he was able to obtain the Starlight Unicorn's approval, it was clear what kind of nature he had. Yang Wenjiao brought Long Houchen to the side and bowed slightly to salute Long Houchen. Long Houchen quickly moved to the side. "Brother Yang, what are you doing?" Yang Wenjiao smiled bitterly. "There's something I want to ask of you. Please promise me." Long Houchen was stunned. "What is it?" Yang Wenjiao whispered. "I want to ask Brother Long to help me take care of Inger." "Huh?" Long Houchen looked at him with some doubt. "When we were choosing before, Brother Yang seemed to have chosen Inger, but she didn't agree. In fact, even without Brother Yang's request, I will still protect her. We are members of the same team." Yang Wenjiao hesitated for a moment before saying, "To tell Brother Long the truth, Inger is my fiancée. Our 2 families have been engaged since childhood. But this girl is a bit rebellious and unwilling to accept her family's arrangements. That's why this situation happened. No matter what, I am her fiancé. but she is not on the same team as me. I can only ask Brother Long to take care of her. I am willing to give 1/3 of my future merit points to Brother Long. What do you think?" Long Houchen's face changed. His voice also became a bit lower. "Brother Yang, I've said it before. Is a member of my team. I will definitely protect her. How can I take your merit points? Well, let's end it here." Finished speaking, he turned around and walked away. In his opinion, Yang Wenjiao's attempt to tempt him with benefits was simply an insult to himself. Looking at his back, Yang Wenjiao couldn't help but pat his forehead. He really cared too much. He really shouldn't have said such things to him. At this moment, Long Houchen stopped and turned to Yang Wenjiao. "I will protect every member of my team. I won't let them get hurt." Yang Wenjiao nodded. "Brother Long, I'm sorry for what happened just now." Long Houchen waved his hand and returned to his companions. At this moment, the Knights Templars' holy knight, Long Han Qiu, walked into the training field with 10 burly men in white robes. They were all at least 40 years old. Seeing him, the monster hunters quickly quietened down. Han Qiu walked to the center of the training field and stopped. The 10 burly men stood in a row behind him. "From today onwards, you have officially become a member of the warrior-level monster hunters. I'm sure you've all seen what merit points can bring you. This is also an important reason why the monster hunters are known as the cradle of the strong. I'm sure you can all guess what's going to happen next. That's right. What's going to happen next is the new Monster Hunters team competition. An individual's strength will always be insignificant on the battlefield. However, an excellent team is the source of miracles. The team competition will no longer let you compete face to face. That will only be a waste of time. In a moment, you will leave the holy city and set off for the frontier. You will spend 3 months in the army. There, you will face the ferocity of the demons. However, it is also the most direct opportunity to obtain merit points. After 3 months, the team with the highest total merit points will be the champion of the team competition, and so on. Only the top 3 teams in the team competition will be rewarded. The first place will be rewarded with 1,000 merit points, the second place 500, and the third place 300. I'm talking about everyone in the team. Even the champion of the individual competition, Long Houchen, had only received 100 merit points as a reward. The moment Han Qiu opened his mouth, he gave everyone in the champion team 1,000 merit points. This meant that this team had the opportunity to quickly advance to the captain-level monster hunters. For a moment, everyone's eyes lit up. On the battlefield, individual strength would be greatly reduced. The strength of a team was not as simple as the sum of the abilities of each member. Anyone could become the final champion. Han Qiu continued, "Standing behind me are the 10 Guardian Knight. They will be your team leaders. They are all heroes who have fought against the demons for many years. On the battlefield, you must learn from them. All team leaders, return to your positions. Let's go." The Temple League had also put in a lot of effort. The best place to hone people was naturally the battlefield. In order to allow a team to quickly grow and develop teamwork, it was obviously the best tool. Thus, on the battlefield, where life and death situations could occur at any time, it was obviously the best tool to hone teamwork. For the safety of these children, the Alliance had sent these 10 Guardian Knights. Not only did they have the task of protecting the new teams of monster hunters, but they also had the responsibility of nurturing the core knight of monster hunters. For a team, the knight, who was responsible for coordination, defense, and command, was always the most important. The 10 Guardian Knight walked out and stood in front of the new teams of monster hunters. On Long Houchen's side was a sturdy man with a body similar to that of Sima Xian. He looked to be around 40 years old. His chiseled face was filled with seriousness. There was a scar on each side of his neck and a circular scar on the side of his head that was at least 2 inches in diameter. Arriving in front of everyone, Gao Yingjie clenched his right fist and hammered the left side of his chest, saying in a deep voice, "Hello, I am Gaoingjie. From now on, for the next 3 months, I will be your team leader. I will not be in charge of commanding your battles, but I will have the authority to correct your decisions at any time. My mission is to ensure that you will be able to leave the battlefield alive after 3 months. The 3 months will start from the moment we arrive at the battlefield. Before we set off, I need to first understand your strength." Chen Ying looked like a curious baby as she asked, "Team leader, how do you understand?" Gaoingjie glanced at her. "Fighting is always the best way to test your strength. You have just formed a team and have probably never fought together before. Then, I will be your first target to challenge." Hearing his words, the first to react were Sima Xian and Wang Yuanyuan. The two of them were the most battle-hungry, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to train their shield warriors and priests into power warriors. Wang Yuanyuan said, "Team leader, what rank are you?" Gaoingjie said calmly, "I am a rank 7 Temple Knight. However, in the competition with you, I will not use my flying ability or summon my mount." Wang Yuanyuan said eagerly, "Then if we defeat you, will there be any benefits? For example, some achievement points or something like that?" Long Haochen didn't open his mouth. Just as Gaoingjie said, their team had just been formed. He needed to observe his teammates and familiarize himself with each person's characteristic. Right now, he had discovered one of Wang Yuanyuan's characteristics. "Money grubber win?" A smile appeared on Gaoingjie's resolute face. "I can't directly give you achievement points. However, if you win, I will become a member of your team and temporarily become a guardian knight. I will listen to your team leader's orders. On the battlefield, all the achievement points I obtain will be equally distributed to your team members. It's a deal." This time, it was Long Haochen who opened his mouth and made the final decision. The team leader's mission was to protect these newly promoted monster hunters. Naturally, he wouldn't directly join them in the battle against the demons. He would only act when it was absolutely necessary. This was a level 7 Temple Knight. If he could temporarily become a member of the team, the quantity and quality of the demons they hunted would increase by leaps and bounds. At that time, which team could compete with them for first place? Although challenging a level 7 demon would be very difficult for them, Gaoingjie was a guardian knight, not a punishment knight. In addition, there wasn't any danger to speak of. He didn't even summon his mount. Why wouldn't they fight for such a good opportunity? Seeing these young people eager to try, Gaoingjie couldn't help but feel a little funny. These kids, did they really think it was that easy to challenge someone of a higher rank? And 2 ranks at that. One had to know that the threshold for a level 7 Temple Knight to enter was as high as 10,000 spiritual energy. Moreover, he wasn't a level 1 Temple Knight. The other monster hunters left one after another under the leadership of their team leader. Han Q also left. Within the night training field, only their team of monster hunters was left. Gaoingjie walked to the center of the field. A shield and a sword appeared in his hands, but he didn't put on his armor. The shield and sword in his hands looked like the most ordinary knight standard weapons. They probably couldn't even be considered magic equipment. "Come." Long Haochen took a few steps forward and arrived at the front of the team. He quickly put on his Holy Spirit set. With a flash of white light, the Holy Spirit Guard was activated. A layer of white light immediately enveloped all of his companions. Sima Berserk. Yuan Inlay. Inger called from the back. Lin Xin assisted in defense. Han Yu and I will defend from the front. Kair will act according to the situation. Go. Long Haochen quickly gave orders. This was their first time working together. They didn't have any tacit understanding, so they could only use words to give orders. As he spoke, a purple light flashed between Long Haochen's eyebrows. Hao Yue appeared. However, Long Haochen didn't ride on him. Instead, he had him fall behind. Han Yu also put on his equipment. He quickly finished summoning the runes on the heavy sword in his right hand. A distorted light shone above his head. A strange magical beast appeared above him. Seeing this magical beast, even Gaoingjie, a temple knight, was stunned. This was because his magical beast companion was really a bit strange. It was an eyeball about 2 feet in diameter and the size of a millstone. Yes, it was a large eyeball. Below the eyeball hung a black tail. The back of the eyeball was also black. The large eyeball rotated. Distorted light constantly flickered around it. It gave off a somewhat demonic feeling. Gaoingjie said in astonishment, "This is the evil eye? It really is a rare magical beast companion." Long Haochen was also slightly stunned. When he had defeated Han Yu hadn't summoned a magical beast at all. That large evil eye floated above Han Yu's head, swaying. The eyeball constantly rotated. The distorted light seemed to come from the center of its pupil. Chapter 49. Suddenly, a red light flashed from the evil eye's pupil. In the distance, Gaoingjie's body also immediately lit up with a red glow. Gaoingjie didn't move, nor was he surprised. Calmly smiling, he said, "Eye of truth? Your evil eye is only in its growth stage. It's still far from being able to see through my cultivation." Long Haochen and Han Yu looked at each other, then took large strides, simultaneously charging towards Gaoingjie. As they moved, the rest of the team also moved. Wang Yuanyuan quickly stuffed her 3 gems into the Divine Soul Shield. Sima Xian gave a loud shout, his aura suddenly increasing. Holding the staff in his hand, he followed Long Haochen's other side and simultaneously charged out. In the process of charging, his muscles suddenly swelled, berserk transformation. Kair, whose hand was originally held by Long Haochen, disappeared at this moment. Hao Yue's 3 heads simultaneously raised, little light and little fire unceasingly emitting low, whimpering chants, while little green spat out 2 rays of cyan light, one falling on Chen Inger and the other Lin Xian. At the same time, the 2's bodies floated slightly. Hao Yue had already carried them on its body. 4 hooves flying, it charged forward after Long Haochen and the others. In Chen Inger's hand, that huge crystal ball had already appeared once again. Her chants were clear and melodious, as if she was singing. Lin Xian sat in front of her, the fire cloud crystal staff in his hand raised. As he rapidly chanted, almost viscous fire elements surged out. It had to be said that Lin Xian's control of magic and affinity with magic elements far surpassed that of Huang Yi, who had an earth elemental spirit. Without the help of an elemental spirit, relying on the fire cloud crystal staff, his casting speed was even faster than Huang Yi's. Long Haochen and the others each had their own movements. On the other side, Gaoingjie acted as if he didn't see any of this and remained unmoving. Under charge, Long Haochen and Han Yu's speed was about the same as Sima Xian's berserk state. The 3 of them arrived in front of Gaoingjie almost at the same time. Seeing that he was less than 10 meters away from Gaoingjie, Long Haochen suddenly let out a loud shout. A white light moved from his chest and shot out like a bolt of lightning, landing on Gaoingjie's body. The Saint Spiritual Stove's first ability, traction. Gaoingjie didn't seem to be surprised by this at all. However, he still moved. Taking a step forward, he landed on the ground as steady as a mountain. In that instant, the ground of the knight's training grounds shook violently. The ordinary iron-heavy sword in his right hand instantly turned into a dazzling gold as he slashed at Long Haochen. Taking a step forward, raising his shield, Long Haochen's figure instantly froze. Like a statue, he cancelled charge and steadily stood there. The Holy Spirit shield shone with a white light. It was the Holy Light Seeping Shield and Divine Block being used at the same time. At the same time, a total of 5 layers of light shone on his body. The first to shine was the Holy Light cover on Long Haochen's own Holy Light bracer. The second layer was the second layer of Holy Light cover released by Han Yu at his side. Next up were 3 balls of magical light. 2 fire-type magic shields and 1 light-type magic shield shot out from behind, simultaneously landing on Long Haochen's body. This Tier 5 defense, coupled with the 2 layers of holy light shields, instantly created 5 thick layers of defensive skills for Long Houchen. The 3 layers of magical shields were naturally Xiao Guang, Xiao Hua, and Lin Xian's. Gao Yingjia's eyes brightened. He inwardly nodded. These youngsters had only cooperated for the first time, and they had already found the crux. A guardian knight or shield warrior that could resist the enemy's attack was the true core of a team. What's more, this very beautiful young knight also had a saint spiritual stove. That defensive stance was completely natural. No wonder he was this year's first place in the individual competition. But was this enough? The heavy sword's forward slash didn't change. It was as if Gao Yingjie didn't see Sima Xian's heavy staff slash from the left and Han Yu's light slash from the right. Boom! A kind of crushing feeling made Long Houchen's whole body shake. The 5 layers of defense in front of him, to Gao Yingjie, were unexpectedly as weak as paper. It only slightly weakened the golden light on his sword. This sword heavily slashed at Long Houchen's Holy Spirit shield. It was also at this time that the evil eye above Han Yu's head suddenly exploded with an intense white light. Even with Gao Yingjie's cultivation, his body slightly stagnated for a moment, falling into a momentary trance. Then, his heavy sword slashed at Long Houchen's shield. The terrifying impact instantly spread from the Holy Spirit's shield to his limbs and bones. At this moment, Long Houchen only felt as if his body was no longer his own. That vast and terrifying spiritual power completely crushed the impact, causing his whole body to practically slide along the ground and fly out. The light's vengeance flashed with golden light. His whole body felt numb, as if he was exhausted. Although Long Houchen had a very high estimation of the strength of a powerhouse of the 7th step, when they truly exchanged blows, he deeply understood the huge gap between them. Even with the concentrated strength of the entire team, they could only barely block this attack. At this time, a pair of huge golden wings of light unfurled from Gao Yingjie's back. The light-severing sword fell on the wings of light and was instantly annihilated. Sima Xian's full-strength attack after going berserk fell on the other side of the wings of light, but it only produced a bang. The holy light hammer attached to it was instantly assimilated by the tyrannical and terrifying light element. His majestic body also bounced back as if he had collided with a ferocious horse, falling far away. Long Houchen didn't stop his saint spiritual stove because of this. He was the captain and also the core of the team. At this time, the heavy responsibility of blocking Gao Yingjie was naturally his responsibility. For rays of light once again appeared on his body. This time, there were no less than 4 layers of elemental shield. Although it was 1 layer less than before, how could a rank 3 holy light barrier compare to a rank 5 elemental shield? Its defense was actually a bit stronger than before. Long Houchen took a deep breath and did his utmost to urge the spiritual energy within his body to dissolve the numb feeling. At this time, the advantage of his external spiritual energy surpassing that of a knight of the same rank showed itself. In one breath, the numbness on his body had already been mostly dissolved. Gao Yingjie's sword forced Long Houchen back. Under the pull of the saint's spiritual stove, unless he turned around and ran out of the range of the stove, the only one he could attack was Long Houchen. With a sliding step, he charged towards Long Houchen. As for Han Yu's attack, he simply didn't care in the slightest. The pair of wings on his back only moved slightly, easily blocking it. Holy light seeping shield, holy light barrier, divine block. Long Houchen once again activated all of his defensive abilities. At this time, another layer of red light fell on his body, unexpectedly giving him another layer of elemental shield. It was Lin Xian. With the help of the fire cloud crystal, Lin Xian's magic release speed was much faster than Haoyue's. Unexpectedly, in such a short time, he was able to create 2 layers of elemental shield to support Long Houchen's defense. Boom! Long Houchen once again brazenly met Gao Yingjie's attack head-on. A violent explosion rang out, and this time, He was forced back 7 or 8 steps before he managed to stabilize himself. All of his defensive barriers shattered once more. But compared to the first attack, because there were more layers of defense, it was clearly a lot easier to deal with. At least he didn't feel numb all over again. At the same time, Long Houchen pointed his Holy Spirit sword forward, and a light sword, accompanied by Light's Vengeance, slashed towards Gaoingjie. Gaoingjie was a little surprised. This young man of only rank 5 was unexpectedly able to block his attack twice in a row with the help of his teammate. Although he didn't use his full strength, it was still quite shocking. Their team was unexpectedly able to complete the defense of 5 elemental shields in such a short time. If it was any other newly promoted monster hunters, they probably wouldn't even be able to do it 3 times. Moreover, this young man's divine block unexpectedly gave him a feeling of perfection. Not only was he skilled, he even used the essence of the divine block to divert power. However, Gaoingjie clearly didn't intend to waste too much time here. After forcing Long Houchen back with his sword, he slid his feet and instantly connected with a shield block charge. He wouldn't injure these young men, but he still wanted to send Long Houchen flying, making his Saint's spiritual stove lose its effect. Without the Guardian Knight's main defense, the others simply wouldn't be able to take a single attack from him. However, at this time, a moment of absent-mindedness appeared in his mind, unexpectedly causing him to be unable to connect with the shield block charge. The evil eye sinisterly shook its head above Han Yu's head. At this time, Han Yu didn't continue to attack. Instead, he stood there motionlessly, a dense golden mist rising from his body. This was the accumulation of power that Long Houchen often used. With his current attack, he couldn't break through Gaoingjie's defense. Only by accumulating power and compressing his own spiritual power would he have a greater chance. The endless dignity and arrogance of a monarch who ruled over the world appeared at this moment. A huge golden light rose from the side of Long Houchen's back. Like a huge golden meteor falling from the sky, it fiercely smashed towards Gaoingjie. The pressure that seemed to come from the wilderness caused even Gaoingjie's expression to change. For the first time, his gaze became serious. The one who soared into the sky was, without a doubt, Wang Yuanyuan. Moreover, it was the strongest version of Wang Yuanyuan, who had completed the embedding of the 3 gems into the Divine Soul Shield. Emitting a dazzling golden light, the Divine Soul Shield flashed with red, yellow, white, blue and gray colors. It was as if a mountain was crushing down on Gaoingjie. Gaoingjie didn't continue to chase after Long Houchen. Instead, his feet stopped moving. While he was pausing, Long Houchen didn't stay idle. 3 halos of light spread out. At the same time, as he quickly chanted an incantation, an angel-like light slowly formed above his head. Faith Halo, Blessing of Protection, True Shot Halo. These were the 3 most basic halos of the Guardian Knight. Long Houchen was very familiar with using them. As long as he had enough time to catch his breath, he wouldn't even need to chant an incantation to instantly cast them. With the help of the 3 halos and the Holy Spirit Guardian, the light on Wang Yuanyuan's body became even more dazzling. Back then, in front of the Divine Soul Shield, Long Houchen had almost been defeated. It was only because of Hao Yue's help and Wang Yuanyuan's exhaustion that they were able to display the shield's full strength that they won. If he hadn't defeated Wang Yuanyuan in that battle, once she entered the top 16, who knew what her final ranking would be like? As the strongest warrior in the current warrior temple, Wang Yuanyuan completely erupted with her battle strength at this moment. Raising the shield, her body froze. It was Divine Block. This was the signature skill of a high-ranking knight. Gaoingjie naturally knew how to use it. Facing the pressure of the Divine Soul Shield, he had no choice but to focus. However, at this moment, a black figure silently appeared behind him. A dark golden light flashed. Kai Er, who was hiding in the shadows, finally moved at this crucial moment. When Long Houchen had received the first attack, Kai Er had already changed her position. Even with Gao Yingjia's ability, he didn't notice that she had moved from behind Long Haochen to behind Han Yu. Gao Yingjie chased after Long Haochen, so he naturally rushed past Han Yu's position. Han Yu was accumulating power, and Kai Er had also arrived behind him. Kai Er's attack position was very precise. It happened to be the center of Gao Yingjie's condensed spiritual wings, which was also his back. This was the weakest part of his wings' defense. That's right, Divine Block was indeed very strong. However, its biggest flaw was that during the moment of defense, the body had to remain motionless and use the whole body to neutralize the enemy's attack. And the time that Kai Er chose was precisely the moment his body froze, which was also the moment when the Divine Soul Shield was about to collide with his defense. Kai Er wasn't an assassin who was good at disguising herself and using her body to confuse the enemy. She was good at hiding, looking for opportunities, and killing in one hit. Although her eyes couldn't see, she was more accurate than anyone else in finding the enemy's weakness. Not good. Gao Yingjie's expression changed the moment Kai Er made her move. After all, he was a 7th-ranked Temple Knight. Although Kai Er's movements were silent, his perception of danger was still there. Many years of fighting with demons had already nurtured his beast-like instincts. Without any hesitation, he dispersed the Divine Block and used the heavy sword in his right hand to block with his back as fast as lightning. At the same time, his body instantly lit up with a transparent gold color. Ding, boom, 2 sounds seemed to appear at the same time. Wang Yuanyuan felt as if she had collided with a mountain. The violent recoil caused her whole body to fly backward. Even the Divine Soul Shield fell from her hand. But her valiant all-out attack also caused Gao Yingjie's body to sway. The center of the shield in his hand also had a slight dent. Han Yu, who was still accumulating power, could clearly see that the heavy sword that Han Yu had used to block Kai Er's attack on his back had unexpectedly been pierced through. Moreover, Kai Er's attack was repelled in one hit. She didn't even have to face it head-on. One could faintly see a dark golden luster penetrating the heavy sword and vanishing into the golden light on Gao Yingjie's body. The 7th-ranked Temple Knight's signature skill, a radiant body. Chapter 50. The moment Gao Yingjie released the body of light, Long Haochen felt it the most. He could clearly feel the light elements in the air rushing towards Gao Yingjie like rivers running into the sea. He could even faintly see some faint specks of light. This was Long Haochen's second time seeing the body of light. It was different from the first time. This time, he saw it in battle. After releasing this powerful skill, the caster's body felt like it had undergone a qualitative change. It was as if his body had become a huge light gemstone, crazily absorbing the light elements in the outside world and releasing them. Wang Yuanyuan was sent flying, but she wasn't injured. This was the effect of Kai Er. Gao Yingjie couldn't use his full strength while blocking her divine giant soul shield. This bloodline inheritance weapon, which was infinitely close to the legend rank, had almost completely erupted. Not only did it cause Gao Yingjie's body to sway, it also protected Wang Yuanyuan's body. Gao Yingjie's face revealed a trace of astonishment. He naturally felt the heavy sword in his hand being pierced. Although the body of light and the spiritual wings on his back had dissolved Kai Er's attack, that cold and sharp aura had still somewhat penetrated his body. What shocked Gao Yingjie even more was that the feeling coming from his back made him feel danger. Thousands of white lights almost instantly burst out from Kai Er's chest. It was the spiritual stove of 1,000 strikes. But these thousands of lights were all concentrated on Gao Yingjie's body and didn't spread in the slightest. The highly concentrated attack, in addition to Kai Er's stabbing dagger, made it impossible for Gao Yingjie to turn around with his cultivation. The body of light's formidable power was revealed at this time. The moment Gao Yingjie's expression changed, a solid golden light came out of his body and unexpectedly condensed into a golden armor. Whether it was the spiritual stove of 1,000 strikes or Kai Er's dark golden dagger, They all let out a series of sounds of metal colliding when they landed on the armor. The powerful recoil pushed Kai-Er's body back in an instant. Golden armor and a pair of golden wings. At this moment, Gao Yingjie looked like a large angel. Although this angel couldn't be considered beautiful, it was filled with majesty. To be able to force me to use the body of glorious light, you're already pretty good. Long Haochen, take this. Under the effect of the saint's spiritual stove, even though the others had attacked him, he was unable to retaliate before dealing with Long Haochen. There was no doubt that the saint's spiritual stove would play a huge role in a team battle. As he took a step forward, he didn't even turn around to look at Kai-Er, who had launched a sneak attack on him. The radiant holy armor condensed from the body of light wasn't something that these fifth-order fellows could break. A transparent and somewhat illusory golden flame rose up. This flame wasn't hot, but it gave off a feeling of blurring consciousness and stagnation. This wasn't the sun's fire that Yang Wenjiao had used before, but rather the rank 7 Temple Knight's skill, Sacred Flame. Using light as a flame, it required over 300 points of internal spiritual power per second. If he didn't have the spiritual orifice he had cultivated when he was a rank 6 Radiant Knight to use as a foundation to recover his enormous consumption, he simply wouldn't be able to use it. Simply put, with an attack that carried sacred flame, even the simplest sword could display the might of a holy sword. Sacred Flame and Body of Glorious Light were both the rank 7 Temple Knight's signature skills. When the two were fused, it was already the true strength of a Temple Knight. At this moment, Gao Yingjie was approximately 10 meters away from Long Haochen. The heavy sword in his hand pointed at Long Haochen, and a sacred flame rushed straight at him like a chain. At the same time, a dazzling golden halo erupted from Gao Yingjie's body. Kai-Er, who was behind him, as well as Han Yu, who was in the midst of accumulating power not far away, only felt their whole bodies heat up, and their bodies were sent far away. Han Yu's accumulating power was interrupted just like that. As a rank 7 expert, how could Gao Yingjie's perception be comparable to these youngsters? He could clearly perceive everything that was happening in his surroundings. Of course, he knew that Han Yu was accumulating power. The reason why he didn't make a move right from the start was to exhaust his spiritual power. At this moment, Han Yu's accumulation was nearing completion, and he had exhausted most of his spiritual power. Under the impact of this golden halo, he had practically lost his combat strength. The golden halo itself didn't have any offensive capabilities, but everywhere it passed, other than Long Haochen, everyone else was pushed far away. What was even more shocking was that, seeing that he was about to attack Long Haochen, Hao Yue and Lin Xian were doing their best to release their defensive skills. However, under the effect of this golden halo, their elemental shields actually disappeared without a trace. Lin Xian cried out involuntarily, "Elemental Annihilation Halo!" The Elemental Annihilation Halo could instantly disintegrate all spells below the 7th rank, turning them back into magical elements and returning them to nature. It was extremely effective against summoning demons. And Gao Yingjie's Elemental Annihilation Halo actually had a powerful pushing force, like a resistance ring of fire. What was even more amazing was that it actually had a choice. It left Long Haochen alone to withstand his attack. At this moment, the youngsters of the 1st Soldier Grade Demon Hunt Squad finally saw what a true powerhouse was. Without the help of his companions, Long Haochen was isolated and helpless. However, he could still maintain his calm. Saint Michin's shield was also a spell, but it also disappeared in the Elemental Annihilation Halo. All he could do now was block it. Taking a deep breath, the saint's spiritual furnace in Long Haochen's chest began to tremble crazily. His arms under his clothes turned into a brilliant gold color in the blink of an eye. The golden liquid flowed out and covered both of his hands in a flash. Bow step, divine block. There was no way to dodge. He could only grit his teeth and bear it. Poof! When the radiant sacred fire struck the sacred spirit shield, it dyed the sacred spirit shield a rich gold color almost instantly. If he was really facing an enemy, Gaoingjie only needed to let the holy light flame spread out in an instant to turn the opponent into ashes. But right now, he only wanted to test the strength of these youngsters. Naturally, he wouldn't use a heavy hand. He was most interested in Long Haochen, the leader of the team. He was the champion of this year's Monster Hunters selection. Where was his limit? Skillfully controlling the holy light flame, as Long Haochen showed signs of being unable to resist, Gaoingjie would instantly end his attack. The Saint's spiritual shield's defense was quite good, even surpassing Long Haochen's previous radiant shield. However, the holy light flame didn't seem to be able to resist it at all. In an instant it spread and attacked Long Haochen's hands. This time there wasn't a strong impact, but that pure light element burned like a hot knife through butter. Only by truly touching it could one feel its heat. It was a kind of moderate, vast, and scorching heat. When Long Haochen's liquid spiritual power met the holy light flame, it unexpectedly became its fuel. Although the holy light flame only spread to his hands, Long Haochen felt as if his whole body was burning. The Saint's spiritual stove in his chest clearly dimmed, and the liquid spiritual power in his body also moved restlessly. However, Long Haochen was somewhat surprised to discover that, with his perception, he unexpectedly didn't feel any danger. Long Haochen didn't feel any danger, but at this moment, Gaoingjie felt it. When he used the Annihilation Halo to disperse all the magic and the other members of Monster Hunters No. 1, the holy light flame attacked Long Haochen's Saint spiritual shield. In an instant, a monstrous killing intent erupted from behind him. Kai Er's light purple hair moved without any wind, scattering behind her head. Her lifeless eyes had completely turned gray. A dark blue halo spread out from her body, and the dark golden dagger in her hand disappeared. Her fair and somewhat pale hands slowly spread out on both sides of her body. Outside the dark blue halo, the air within a diameter of 5 meters turned completely gray in an instant. Others might not be able to feel what that gray color was, but Gaoingjie was horrified to discover that the killing intent coming from behind him was almost tangible. Even though he was currently wearing the brilliant holy armor derived from the glorious body of light, and was burning with the holy light flame, he still felt a chill on his back. That monstrous killing intent unexpectedly made him, who was filled with the aura of light, feel a deathly stillness. What's going on? Almost making a prompt decision, Gaoingjie instantly turned around, just in time to see the strange scene on Kai Er's body. This seemingly blind girl, how could she have such a terrifying aura? This had already completely surpassed her cultivation of the 5th rank. Fortunately, Long Haochen's Saint spiritual stove had been interrupted by his holy light flame. Otherwise, Gaoingjie would have to face an even bigger problem. The cold feeling made Gaoingjie feel as if he had fallen into hell. If this was an enemy, then he would certainly choose to attack at the first moment without hesitation. However, the one standing in front of him wasn't an enemy. Her terrifying killing intent was currently expanding at an astonishing speed. The gray area surrounding her body was also unceasingly increasing. It was also at this time that all the members of the soldier rank No. 1 monster hunters were like a spring that had been intensely squeezed, crazily erupting. Slowly recovering, Wang Yuanyuan once again soared up. The divine giant soul shield in her hand erupted with an incomparably swift and fierce silver radiance. Enormous spiritual power fluctuations mixed with a savage aura rapidly rose, and even her pair of big eyes carried a smear of silver. At this moment, the huge living spirit gate finally opened. This time, it wasn't a sheep. What appeared first were more than 30 pitch-black, slender tentacles. The tentacles violently shot out, and wherever they passed, the air would fiercely distort. A plump body unexpectedly squeezed out from the living spirit gate. The evil eye above Han Yu's head was originally preparing to attack Gaoingjie, but in the split second that the huge body squeezed out from the living spirit gate, it unexpectedly fiercely trembled and dodged behind Han Yu. Chen-Ing-Er had already sat on the ground. Her small face was frighteningly pale, and she was gasping for breath. It was obvious that she had overdrawn her spiritual power. Lin Xian didn't know how to attack, but he wasn't the only one who had the fire element. Fire illuminates the heavens and earth. A red light shot out from the fire cloud crystal, and just happened to fall on Xiao Hua's head. Without holding back, he rapidly transferred his spiritual power to Xiao Hua. And in the split second after the elemental annihilation, Halo dispersed the elemental shield. Only Lin Xian noticed that Hao Yue's three heads, Xiao Guang, Xiao Hua, and Xiao Qing, all had solemn expressions in their eyes. The protruding horns on their backs faintly rippled with a layer of purple. The three heads issued a rapid and special chant. At first, it seemed that they were chanting their own incantations. However, if one paid close attention, they would discover that the three of them were chanting in harmony with each other. Their originally different-colored eyes also rippled with a faint layer of purple. However, they weren't the first to move. A huge silver hammer of light fell from the sky. The length of this huge hammer was no less than 5 meters, and the diameter of the hammer's head reached more than 2 meters. It was wholly white and emitted a gentle hexagonal halo. In the split second it fell from the sky, there seemed to be a pleasant divine melody reverberating in one's ears. In particular, around this silver hammer of light, there was unexpectedly a layer of faint bloody light. After launching this attack, a certain Baldy sat on the ground. His complexion wasn't much better than Chen-Ing-Er's. Gaoingjie raised the shield in his left hand above his head. Dang! A loud sound echoed. His body was immediately covered with a layer of dazzling gold. It was the divine defense block. The huge silver hammer of light collapsed, but Gaoingjie's feet unexpectedly sank by half an inch. At this moment, the huge figure that squeezed out of the living spirit gate could already be seen clearly. It turned out to be an enlarged version of the evil eye. This guy's huge eyeball had a diameter of more than 3 meters. It was no wonder that it had to squeeze out of the living spirit gate. There were at least 30 tentacles over 20 meters long on its body, and they were all coming to envelop Gaoingjie from all directions. At the same time, layers of intense white flames rose from its huge eyeballs, as if circles of white halos were being drawn in. An extremely terrifying pressure exploded in an instant. The leader of the evil eye, a magical beast of the 8th rank. An evolved form of the evil eye. Who would have thought that Chen-Ing-Er, who was the least expected, would actually have such a huge burst of luck and summon a magical beast of the 8th rank? A magical beast of the 8th rank was equivalent to a human powerhouse of the 7th rank. Moreover, this leader of the evil eye was a special type of magical beast of the 8th rank that mainly focused on spiritual attack. Gaoingjie naturally felt the aura of the magical beast of the 8th rank. However, at this moment, he still didn't dare to turn around, because the feeling that Kai gave him was even more dangerous than the magical beast of the 8th rank. Air-splitting cannon! Wang Yuan shouted. A huge silver beam of light broke through the air, and with a shrill whistle, it headed straight for Gaoingjie. This was the complete version of the air-splitting cannon that she could use. It was at least twice as powerful as the one she had used to deal with Long Haochen. At the same time that she released the air-splitting cannon, the tentacles of the evil eye also arrived. Gaoingjie sighed inwardly. At this moment, he unexpectedly made an action that no one could understand. His entire body actually fell backwards and sat down. A resplendent silver light soared into the sky. This silver light didn't have any strong light elements, but it gave people a feeling of vastness. The air around Gaoingjie's body suddenly became viscous. It was actually a sign that all kinds of magical elements were automatically condensing. Under his body, a distorted silver light appeared, and a square silver box appeared out of thin air. There were many dazzling and gorgeous silver patterns on the box. When Gaoingjie sat backwards, he just happened to sit on the box. The silver light rose and turned into a huge beam of light. When the tentacles of the evil eye came into contact with the silver light, they bounced back as if they had been electrocuted. They actually didn't dare to come into contact with the silver light. A golden light flew out of Gaoingjie's hand. The fine iron shield let out a whimpering hum as it collided with the air-splitting cannon. Compared to the giant soul god's shield, the difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. However, with the huge difference in cultivation, it unexpectedly exploded with tyrannical power. Amidst the loud explosion, the fine iron shield exploded into a rain of light in the air. However, the holy fire burning on the shield forcefully dissipated most of the power of the skysplitter cannon. Only a small portion of the power was able to hit Gaoingjie. All of it was melted by the layer of sticky silver light around his body. At the same time, a clear, melodious, and music-like sonorous sound rang out. Everyone only saw a silver light sweep out. From the silver box, a pair of leg guards first extended forward and latched onto Gaoingjie's legs. Then, a silver light shot out from the leg guards and latched onto his legs. From where he sat, silver light shot out from the back of his waist and thighs, completely covering his waist and thighs. As Gaoingjie stood up, the silver light danced up from below, and the melodious sonorous sound continued. In a total of a few breaths, a set of silver armor, including a helmet, had completely covered Gaoingjie's body. They had never eaten pork or even seen a pig run, but they had always heard of the legends of pigs. Apart from Kair, the other Soldier Level 1 Monster Hunters members almost simultaneously exclaimed, "Mithril Foundation Battle Armor." The silver armor shone with a faint halo. The viscous halo, like flowing mercury, only spread out within a 1-foot radius of the armor. However, it gave off an irresistible and powerful pressure. There weren't many gorgeous patterns on the silver armor, but it had a beautiful streamlined design. Every bulge, every line was perfect. All of the patterns on the armor were linear. There were straight lines, arcs, sharp edges, and smooth edges. It was a seamless beauty. Moreover, outside of the silver light of the armor, there was also a blazing holy fire. When the armor was worn on Gaoingjie's body, the holy fire seemed to explode and soar to a height of 10 meters. A golden flame of 10 meters was extremely powerful. The immense pressure caused everyone to feel a sense of powerlessness and weakness. He didn't have a shield in his hand, and he was still holding onto that fine iron sword. However, at this moment, Gaoingjie gave Long Haochen and the others a feeling of looking up to a tall mountain. Squeak! At this moment a sharp whistle exploded. A terrifying white light with a diameter of 10 meters brazenly shot out, directly attacking Gaoingjie. The attack of the Evil Eye Lord had finally begun. The moment the white light appeared, everyone felt as if they were going insane. Because this huge light passed by Haoyue's 3 heads almost completed incantation was actually destroyed. 3 different colored magical elements scattered from its body. Haoyue's body swayed, and he suddenly turned his 3 heads. His 3 heads' 6 eyes flashed with purple light, and they glared at the Evil Eye Lord. Gaoingjie didn't turn his head, but as if he had eyes on the back of his head, the surging holy fire suddenly swept behind him, unexpectedly condensing into a huge, bright golden shield. There wasn't a violent explosion, only a hissing sound that made people's teeth ache. The white light disappeared, and the holy fire also dimmed a lot. The viscous layer of silver light around Gaoingjie's body flickered slightly, then returned to normal. The Mithril Foundation armor was completely made of the rare mithril. Mithril was one of the rare metals that had the highest affinity for magical elements in the world. Even a small piece the size of a fist was worth tens of thousands of gold coins. Any weapon that was added with a little mithril would instantly become a magical weapon. If a little more was added, it would immediately become a spirit-level equipment. And on this armor completely made of mithril, there were at least 7 different magic circles. The density of mithril was very high, so its weight was also quite shocking. The silver armor that seemed to perfectly fit Gao Yingje's body weighed more than 1,000 pounds. The mithril foundation armor was the core and most powerful equipment of the Knights Templars. Only the most outstanding 7th Order Temple Knight had the qualifications to wear it, and it also depended on luck. There were a total of 365 mithril foundation armors in the entire Knights Templars, and it took them nearly 3,000 years to completely forge. In some ways, it imitated the power of the Throne of God. Every mithril foundation armor was a real piece of legendary equipment, and it was a piece of legendary equipment that covered the entire body. All 365 sets of mithril foundation battle armor had an owner. If a newly promoted 7th Order Temple Knight wanted to wear it, not only would he have to defeat the challenges of other knights of the same rank, he would also have to wait for an opportunity. Either a mithril foundation knight successfully challenged and was promoted to knight on a golden pedestal, and the original mithril foundation armor would return to the Knights Templars, or a mithril foundation knight would die in battle or retire. Only under these circumstances could a temple knight obtain this legendary equipment. Of course, there was another way, and that was to exchange for it with enough achievement points. In the case of exchange, it would be prioritized first. But to exchange for a mithril foundation armor, the achievement points needed would definitely be an astronomical figure. Ever since the 365 sets of mithril foundation battle armor had been forged, they had become the cornerstone of the Knight Temple. Moreover, they had never lost a set. If a mithril foundation knight died in battle, then the teleportation magic on the mithril foundation would be activated, automatically teleporting back to the Knights Templars. Moreover, the mithril foundation armor had an extremely strong self-recovery ability. Wanting to completely destroy it would be very difficult. At this moment, Long Houchen and the others saw the existence of this legendary equipment for the first time. Their originally strong fighting spirit suddenly seemed to be splashed with a basin of ice water. Golden light dazzled, white light shot. The Saint's spiritual stove was once again activated, falling on Gao Yingje's body. Even the mithril foundation armor's silver magic barrier was unable to block the Saint's spiritual stove's pulling ability. Gao Yingje's face hidden in his helmet couldn't help but slightly change. In his view, Long Houchen should have lost his fighting strength after being directly attacked by his sacred fire. How could he still activate the Saint's spiritual stove? Did Long Houchen really lose his fighting strength? No. At the same time that his companions continuously released their strongest attacks, Long Houchen's body also underwent a drastic change. His whole body seemed to have become transparent, golden and transparent. Dazzling golden flames rose from his body. His pair of golden eyes were even more radiant. If one had to evaluate his current state, then in the eyes of others, he was like the Gao Yingje from a moment ago, the Gao Yingje who used the body of light and burned with the sacred fire. A vast amount of light attribute spiritual power surged out, far exceeding his strength in his normal state. A heavy sword emitting a dreamy luster replaced the Saint's spiritual shield's position. At the same time that the Saint's spiritual stove was activated, Long Houchen exploded with a shout, unexpectedly charging towards Gao Yingje, who was wearing the mithril foundation armor. Long Houchen naturally knew that no matter what, it was impossible for him to be Gao Yingje's opponent. He also didn't know what happened to his body, why his strength suddenly increased. However, he could feel that there was something wrong with Kai Er's current state. Kai Er was the love of his life that he wanted to protect. How could he let Kai Er face such a powerful Gao Yingje head-on? Facing a strong enemy, blocking at the very front, this was what he should do as a knight, as a man. Therefore, even if he knew that it was like an ant trying to shake a tree, he still released the Saint's spiritual stove once again, replacing it with blue rain and hibiscus of light as he charged towards his opponent. Everyone could be intimidated by the mithril foundation armor, but as the team leader, as the core of the team, he couldn't. He wanted to use his own actions to arouse the courage of his companions. blue rain and hibiscus of light pointed forward with a faint light rippling like water. A misty gold and blue dual-colored light emitted, and the heavy sword in Long Houchen's hand unexpectedly disappeared. The gold and blue were clearly separated, like two bands of light in a split second. These two streams of light intertwined in the air, heading straight for Gaoingjie. It was also at this moment that the sacred flame ignited on Long Houchen's body was extinguished, and the feeling of penetration on his body also disappeared. His whole body fell forward a step, using the Holy Spirit's sword as support to barely stand. At the same time, Kai, who had been quietly standing there, also moved. A black light seemed to burst forth from the top of her head, and the originally gray air around her body turned black in a flash. The murderous aura that was already almost tangible underwent an astonishing change. The sticky silver light in front of Gaoingjie, who was already wearing the mithril foundation armor, unexpectedly showed signs of collapsing. Gaoingjie only felt a suffocating sharp aura burst forth in front of him in a flash. Even the mithril foundation armor seemed to be somewhat unable to withstand this frightening murderous aura. This wasn't a substantive attack, but a murderous aura. How could this girl have such a frightening murderous aura? Gaoingjie snorted and unexpectedly retreated half a step. At this time, he had already sunk into an extremely passive state. The existence of the saint's spiritual stove made it impossible for him to launch an attack on Kai. He had to first deal with Long Houchen. However, the saint's spiritual stove couldn't confuse his mind. The threat that Kai brought him was truly too frightening, to the point that he didn't even dare to turn around to deal with the bizarre attack bursting forth from Long Houchen's blue rain and hibiscus of light. Kai, stay your hand. A cold and clear voice resounded. The black light that had just risen from the top of Kai's head didn't even let the others see it clearly before it once again disappeared above her head. Gaoingjie immediately felt his whole body lighten, and a fine layer of cold sweat unexpectedly appeared on his back. He didn't know what kind of ability Kai had used, but he was completely certain that if that attack came, it wouldn't be easy for him to block it. However, at this time, Long Houchen's attack fell on Gaoingjie's body from behind. The blue and gold light that spiraled together condensed into the shape of a sharp cone. It actually pierced through the viscous silver light released by the mithril foundation armor just like that, fiercely smashing into Gaoingjie's back. With a puff, Gaoingjie's whole body flew forward. A frightening destructive power burst forth in a flash. With one hand on the ground, the two wings on his back spread open. Gaoingjie flipped over with one hand and barely managed to stabilize his body. However, his upper body slightly swayed, and with a wah sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood. One could clearly see that on the back of his mithril foundation battle armor, an extremely deep depression had appeared. It was obvious that his body had already been injured. Around that depression there were small holes as fine as needles. Water pervades every pore, light pierces through overwhelming. This was the additional ability of blue rain and hibiscus of light rain hibiscus pierce. Originally, Long Houchen had prepared to use this ability against Yang Wenjiao to fight for the championship. But in the end, Yang Wenjiao wasn't able to withstand his powerful fighting spirit and lost before Gaoingjie could use this attack. As for the light rain hibiscus pierce, even Long Houchen himself hadn't studied it thoroughly. This was because using this attack with his current level of cultivation was still a bit difficult. Moreover, the strength of one's cultivation and the amount of spiritual energy one could use also determined the power of this attack. Just now, Long Houchen's internal spiritual energy had suddenly increased. Although he didn't understand what was going on, he had poured all of this external spiritual energy into blue rain and hibiscus of light, activating this ability. This was currently the strongest attack ability he possessed. Even Long Houchen himself hadn't expected the light rain hibiscus pierce to be so powerful. Even Gaoingjie, who was wearing the mithril foundation battle armor, had been injured. The gold and blue rays of light rolled back and returned to Long Houchen's hand, transforming into blue rain and hibiscus of light. Looking at the sword in his hand, Long Houchen didn't hide the fondness in his heart. This sword was too spiritual. The feeling of being connected to his heart was comparable to the relationship between him and Haoyue. In the void, a crack appeared next to Kai Er, and a tall, skinny old man dressed in black stepped out. The person who came was none other than the Assassin Temple's Temple Master, Stage 9 hero, and Temple League's vice leader, Xing Yu. Xing Yu didn't pay attention to anyone else. He stared at Kai Er and said, "Hu Jian, it's only a spar. How could you use that kind of power? Did you forget the price you have to pay to use it?" The gray in Kai Er's eyes gradually dissipated. She said indifferently, "A great-grandfather, this is the first time I'm fighting together with him. I don't want to lose." Xing Yu's face immediately darkened. "You little girl. Is he that good? Is he worth your effort?" Kai Er suddenly became stubborn and said, "He's the only one who makes me feel familial love and warmth." Xing Yu froze for a moment, and his originally fierce eyes immediately softened. His breathing became heavy for a moment. His gaze turned to Gaoingjie, who was withdrawing his mithril pedestal. "You're also messing around. Can't you see that the power she's using doesn't belong to her? Why didn't you say anything to stop her?" Gaoingjie respectfully gave Xing Yu a knight's salute. "Sir Hero, I wanted to test the limits of these youngsters. I'm the leader of their trial this time. I need to grasp their true strength." Xing Yu frowned and said, "Then what's the result of your test?" Gaoingjie's eyes flashed. "It's better than I imagined. Although they don't have a tacit understanding, and many of their abilities are unstable. However, in certain situations, they can explode with fighting strength that far surpasses their usual. After a period of integration, I believe that they will explode with a stronger overall strength. They are worthy of being this year's first soldier rank monster hunters." Xing Yu nodded. His gaze swept across everyone. His gaze paused slightly on the Evil Eye Lord. "Little girl, this Evil Eye Lord is not bad. Why don't you consider making it your natal beast? Although its rank is a bit higher, if you're willing, this old man can help you suppress it. The Evil Eye Lord has the chance to advance to the peak of the 9th rank, the Evil Eye Tyrant." Chen Ing-er had already stood up from the ground. She shook her head without hesitation and said, "No way. It's too ugly. Hurry up and go back." As he spoke, he waved his hand at the Evil Eye Lord in disgust. The big guy glanced at her resentfully, then squeezed through the living spirit gate. Xing Yu said with some regret, "The Evil Eye is indeed not suitable for girls. However, it's not easy to find an opportunity to tame a peak 9th rank magical beast as a natal beast." Chen Ing-er stuck out her tongue and said, "I don't want it. Grandma said that the natal beast must be trained from a young age to be perfectly compatible with me. This guy is already so big. What if it backfires in the future?" Xing Yu said indifferently, "Up to you." After all, he wasn't a strong person from the Soul Temple. He didn't know that the little girl was thinking, "Yang Wenzhao's Starlight Unicorn is so beautiful. Wouldn't it be embarrassing for me to make such an ugly guy my natal beast?" Xing Yu said in a low voice, "You little guys really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you really want to defeat a temple knight? What do you think the level gap is?" Wang Yuan had a fiery temper. She didn't care who she was facing. She couldn't help but say, "We almost won just now. Even the leader was injured." Xing Yu sneered, "Almost? Very much so. If he really wanted to kill you, he wouldn't need more than 3 seconds. To have a mithril foundation armor, his cultivation is at least 7 ranks higher than the Temple Knight. What does a rank 7 Temple Knight mean? It means that his internal spiritual energy is over 23,000. Your internal spiritual energy added together isn't as high as his. The reason why he was injured is admittedly because Long Houchen's attack was good. But more importantly, he was afraid of hurting you. So, he was always in a defensive state. Otherwise, how could Long Houchen keep using the saint's spiritual stove to keep him occupied? For any profession, the lower the level, the more obvious the level gap is. Even with my cultivation, I have to face the full strength attack of a rank 7 powerhouse. You guys? Humph.